What's up, you beautiful people? This is Gary Horn, and this is the NWA, the podcast celebrating the past, present, future, history, legacy, and tradition of the greatest pro wrestling entity of all time, the National Wrestling Alliance. And this is not just a National Wrestling Alliance show. This is our Sunday night wrestling talk, prize fight wrestling talk, where we talk about any and all news that is news in the world of professional wrestling. And as always, I am joined by my friends to the end, my ride or dies. Hey, it's Will, not Daly. Hey, it's Will.
What's up?
And the doctor, the smartest man in the room. Almost any room. Not this room, but most rooms. It's Dr. Rob Stinson. What's up, buddy?
In very few rooms. Good evening, everybody.
When it's just you and your kids.
Oh. I don't know. Piper was on here earlier, and I told her we almost just went live with her. So we were just like, let's just do it for Piper.
That's my legacy, man.
Yeah, there you go. I'm dressed in my Rob Stinson attire today, so you know I'm bringing the realness. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm pretty excited. Big week. We got plenty of news to talk about. I've been doing this all day, fellas. I've been sitting here at this computer all day long, and it is driving me nuts. I was recording the last episode of my Cinema Shock podcast for the Batman series we're doing. That started this week. If you guys haven't checked it out, let me put it over for a second, because I studied the hell out of Christopher Nolan's Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy. We're covering all three of those movies. If you haven't seen them, you've seen them. There's nobody that hasn't seen them. Just go check them out. I've learned so much about that, the making of those films this week, that it makes me sick. Just disgusting. But anyway, so Cinema Shock at cinema_shock. Go check that out. Listen to that podcast too. Give us a subscribe. We also have a YouTube. Nothing's on it yet, but you can also subscribe there. All right. Now that I've started out this show by putting over the other show, do you guys have anything you want to put over? Will, you're doing SEO stuff. You're out there. You're doing your own thing. You're on your grind.
I mean, yeah, if we're putting over our other projects, this one actually makes me money. It's my livelihood. But yeah, if you go to heyitswill.com, check it out. I'm doing stuff for SEO, content creators. So everyone out there, if you have a podcast, a YouTube channel, anything like that, there's a lot of great information and resources, just things I've learned over the years. And I'll be launching an academy starting on December 1st that you can join and be a part of. And there's going to be a ton of great tutorials, tips, how to take your channel, how to make it more visible, how to be successful, whatever business endeavor or content channel that you got running. So check it out, heyitswill.com.
Hey, can we support you on Patreon or anything? Is there an option?
I meant to talk to you about that, Rob. Not anymore. I'll get with you offline about that. It's not gonna be on Patreon. It's gonna be on a different platform, one that gives me more abilities to do some courses and some interaction and stuff like that. So stay tuned.
All right,
Rob, since we started off with plugs, if you got something, now's the time.
Man, I do, man. We got all our boys in the house, man. We got Woodland Goblin, Dave Scooby in there, always doing the work, man. We got Front Row, my man, RJ. The man I want to put over tonight, though, we got Wrestling with the MMA in there, too. The man I want to put over tonight, though, is my man Ryan Romano, who, if you have not seen his two-part reflection, it's not an analysis. It's not a play-by-play commentary, anything like that. This is a heartfelt reflection on Mission Pro and what it means to him. And if you want to talk about what it means to appreciate the business and the hard work that people put in, you've got to watch this. I was touched. I was moved. I've really grown to admire Ryan Romano, and I feel him. You know, when he talks, I feel him. You know, it's like he talks about work and getting through work to be able to do this. And I just want to tell you, man, no matter what job you have, whether it's Will being self-employed or Gary doing whatever he does, or me being an administrator, I'm going to tell you, man, I don't live to work. I work so that it enables me to live and do what I really want to do, which is enjoy this great sport, the greatest sport in the world. So I'm with you, Ryan. I appreciate what you did. And great videos, man. Y'all watch them. Follow this guy. Subscribe. Hit the bell. It's fantastic. It'll make you
Shout out to Ryan Romano. We love him. Shout out to me for doing whatever it is I do. Thank you, Rob.
You talk about movies.
Yeah, talk about movies, obviously. we gotta recognize James Lawrence, who's over there hanging out in the chat. You said all these other names. I said, you say front row? I hope you did. Jedi Warrior, Jim Ellis over there. The Nation shows in the house. So many people. Darren LaPointe hanging out with us tonight. This is going to be great. I am excited to talk to you all about everything, including all of the news that is news, which means like, I don't know, Ultimate Rivals Part 2, Tim Storm versus Nick Aldis came out this week. That's worth seeing. I just wanted to mention that up top. If you guys haven't checked it out, you need to go over there to hit that up on YouTube, give those guys a like, and just show the NWA you're still out there so that maybe, we all hope maybe, they'll start doing even more and start having some actual matches. And, because right now it's like Thunder Rosa is the only one out there. Allison Kay, we saw her on Full Gear, but I don't know that she's technically NWA anymore, so it's tough. We've seen some stuff on UWN Primetime Live, including a controversial match we could talk about later if that's what you guys want to do. But anyway, just make sure you check out their YouTube channel. Don't forget about that kind of content. Also, just up top, Rob kind of mentioned it, but make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're grateful to have all of you watching right now. Even those of you who aren't in the chat, just know you are also valued, and your likes, your subscribes, they all mean a lot as we move closer and closer to that 1,000 number so that we can monetize the show. That would be great on YouTube just for a few extra bucks. Now, you can, of course, check us out on the web over at nwafam.com. That's where our online store is. You can also chip in a couple of bucks if you want to buy us a beer, something like that. Then cheers to you. Anyway, sorry. I just wanted to get all of this out of the way as we start off up top with the wrestling news. Rob, why are you laughing? You're so giddy down there.
Yeah, man. Ain't nothing going on.
Where's your shirt?
Do you just wear the hoodie?
Why y'all in my personal business, man? I'm over here just trying to live my best life. Shoot.
Was it always that unzipped, or did you just do that?
No, man, I'm feeling good now. Y'all earned a couple of extra centimeters, man.
All right. Well, we hate to interrupt your dinner, so go ahead and keep going.
Well, so a lot of you, as you go, we're constantly evolving the Sunday night show, just trying to figure out what we're going to do here exactly. But I think it's kind of landed on this is just all wrestling news, and also just a chance for all of us in the hashtag NWA fam, or if you're brand new, just to hang out and talk about all the latest wrestling news, just anything in wrestling that you want to. If you're in the chat, throw it in there. As Front Row says, he's still sending monthly money to us. I hope it all goes to Gary's Hammerstone merch collection. We'll see. Right now, Will's got access to that, so we'll see if he loans me some money to get to Hammerstone. Real quick on Hammerstone, I know it's all fun and games, and like I legitimately am a huge fan of Hammerstone, but thoughts and prayers to his family. He did announce on Twitter this week that his girlfriend was diagnosed with cancer, and that's no good for anybody. And so he gave a little thread there. He wasn't going to talk about it publicly, but he's just been kind of anxious and dealing with that. And so Hammerstone, if you're out there, we do genuinely love you as much as we play around about it, and hope you and your lady are doing well. All right. So let's jump into the news and let's talk about the big stuff. I guess the big stuff. I don't know. Will, when I was posting up news in our private chat and going, you wanted me to make sure I hit on this. And you're right. I mean, it's probably most important. It's that I'd say arguably one of the biggest things that happened this week. And that is, and for a lot of reasons, but it's that WWE announced the release of Zelena Vega. And she was a Smackdown talent. She apparently she's a streamer on Twitch, and she recently opened an OnlyFans account. It's not like a nudity OnlyFans account, but she has like cosplay pictures and just stuff for her members, just private interaction there. And let's see. So she basically, I think, was making enough money over there on those. And as we know, WWE has been heavily cracking down on the third-party options for the wrestlers. So Zelena Vega has apparently been very audible backstage about not agreeing with that particular scenario. And so for whatever reason, they have come to terms on their release. I think she had asked. And so they very quickly let her go. It seems like right before that, I thought was entertaining is that she did post that she supports unionization also. So it was like she got that one last jab in there as they were letting her go. And anyway, but so lots of wrestlers tweeting about that and just sad, but interesting. It's a clear sign, I think, that McMahon's ready to pick a fight with anybody that wants to go toe-to-toe with him on this third-party platform thing. And it's tough because Vega wasn't in like a super prominent position. So it's not clear, or is this going to cause anybody to stand up and say anything or what's going to happen here? But we'll see in time. But Will, I know you've looked into this a lot and you've often had stuff to say about it. What are your thoughts on Zelena Vega and her situation?
I think it's unfortunate because as a lot of people are saying in the chat, or as Front Row mentioned in the chat, I mean, she's an incredible talent. She had been featured a lot in the past couple of years. And she was stellar in NXT with Andrade. And then since coming up to SmackDown and Raw, she's been a real bright spot on the show. And she's one of these people that I think I was reading some quotes from a Meltzer podcast or something like that. And he was saying that, the big rub here is that there's a lot of people on the roster. Some of them are making more money through third-party situations than they are from WWE. And so when WWE comes out, they're basically telling them, hey, cut off your primary money maker. That's going to be an issue for people like her. And I hate that it had to end this way. I mean, I am excited to see her somewhere else, hopefully, and continuing to rise and her visibility as a wrestler. But it's just unfortunate again. I mean, as we've talked about, that WWE is now having to let go people like this, not having to let go. I mean, I don't know the whole story, if she asked for it or if they fired her. I don't know. We don't know. We're just reading stuff on the internet, all of us. But at any rate, I think we can probably all assume that this is due to that third party, prohibiting them from doing third party stuff. And she was making a lot of income from that. And so, you come after people's livelihoods. It doesn't matter how well you're positioned on the pecking order when it comes to wrestling promotions. People are going to do what's best for them and their family. I mean, she's married to Aleister Black. I don't know if we mentioned that yet, but I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be any, bleed over into his situation. I'm a huge Aleister Black fan. A little less now that they changed his music, but he's a great guy that he deserves the spot that he has and more. And so don't know if we're going to see him try to get out of WWE as well. I don't know. But again, it's unfortunate. I mean, this whole thing just leaves a bad taste in my mouth for WWE for, trying to micromanage people making money outside the company. It's just, as we've said before, it's not a great look.
Yeah, Rob, what are your thoughts on this thing? I mean, it just as far as this thing, I mean, like unionization and so on and so forth. No, I'm just kidding. What are you thinking about Zelena Vega? Any thoughts here?
I mean, I wouldn't presume to know everything that's going on there with that situation. I'm sure there's way more to what we're seeing. It would be unfortunate if this were, reactionary on the part of the WWE, that she made a comment about unionization, which is an American right. It's whatever you think about it, it is within the scope of the American political discussion. I mean, it's not an extreme thing. It's not a radical position to say that people should unionize and workers should or anything like that. If it's retaliatory, that's unfortunate. It really, really is. It'd be one thing if she were making, six figures off of whatever contract she had, and under the terms of that, it's like, hey, you got to toe the party line. I get that. But my guess is that a lot of those talents, unless you're like John Cena or Charlotte Flair or somebody like that, you're not making that kind of money. And you have to. I know we're going to get into Thunder Rosa later on, and what her comments on Busted Open about, her future, and she's got all these different pursuits, and in order to pursue those, there are certain avenues that she can't go down because obviously WWE is not going to let her be free like she needs to be. So I don't know what all different factors are in play there, and I wouldn't presume to. I would just say that if her firing or her dismissal was retaliatory, it would be a bad look.
Yeah, I think I did read somewhere that she, like, her no compete will come up in February or something like that. I have no doubt we're going to see Zelena Vega. She's too good to not show up somewhere else, I think. So I'm not really worried about that for her. It is unfortunate, like you said, though, that if it's come to this with the WWE, if it's retaliatory, it does feel kind of crappy. And it just lends itself to the rep that the WWE already has. So it doesn't help them anyway. Yeah, so it does suck because, they are obviously, like you said, probably the ones paying the most money. James Lawrence pointing out in the chat that she could probably make more as an independent wrestler with her Twitch while not being misused by WWE, which could be true. And Ryan Romana thinking wherever she goes could be huge news. So yeah, I'm sure that she's not going to be without a job from here, I would imagine. All right. Well, moving on there. I was trying to catch up on the new stuff here. So some of this early stuff is this stuff that came out last week. Chelsea Green made her debut on Smackdown, sticking with WWE for a second. But she was facing off Liv Morgan, Tamina, and Natalya in a fatal four-way match. She ended up breaking her wrist. Supposedly the story is behind the scenes that she was supposed to win that match, but the injury was just too severe, and she announced later on that she is actually undergoing surgery for that broken wrist, and so that's unfortunate for her. So best wishes out to Chelsea Green. I know this was a big moment for her, and that really stinks. She on Twitter put out, just like the rest of my career, I couldn't have an easy debut. LOL, that wouldn't be fit for my wild journey. I'm headed into surgery. I'm beyond devastated, but so excited to be a part of the WWE team in SmackDown when I get back. So Matt Cardona also chiming in, WWE's former Zack Ryder, who is her fiance. And he said, well, tonight was bittersweet. I've seen her get told no by WWE, to getting hired, to doing nothing in NXT, to finally getting an NXT match, but breaking her wrist doing it, to getting surgery, rehabbing, coming back, still doing nothing, to getting called up, to going back to NXT, to getting called up again, to debuting on Raw, but it was a taped episode and the segment was cut, to doing nothing, to finally debuting on SmackDown tonight, but breaking her wrist and needing surgery again. Jesus! Chelsea Green is a fighter, and she will come back again and be the star that she is destined to be. I love you. Sweet stuff from Matt Cardona. But to his point, last night on SmackDown was Chelsea Green's first match since, I think, May on WWE TV. She's supposedly been said to be called up for months, but, just a bummer. Just a bummer. But we've seen people bounce back. So she seems like a fighter is what I would say.
Yeah, it's super unfortunate. I saw that post too from Matt Cardona, and I was like, man, like the journeys. We don't really a lot of times pay attention to the full journeys of a lot of these wrestlers and these athletes, and like, man, that's a story. And I read that and I was like, man, that sucks. But I'm glad she's in good spirits. I'm glad that she's gonna rehab and get back on SmackDown. Hopefully they don't shift their plans for her around, because she's a great talent as well. So love to see her get that spotlight that she's earned. So I'm just hoping that doesn't derail their plans. Not to continually throw shade on the WWE, but they tend to be very short-sighted when it comes to people like that. And I just hope this isn't one of those scenarios. I hope she can pick up where she left off when she gets back.
All right, Rob, I just never know. So I don't know. I blame myself that I should throw to you if you do, or like you should raise your hand.
Well, the problem is sometimes you throw to us and sometimes you just sit there, so we don't ever know what you want us to do. So you just tell us when to speak, Master.
Well, I've had enough of that talk back. So
All right,
anyway,
here we go now. Here we go.
let it be known what can happen to you if you talk.
Oh, really, Gary? Because you're not the only one that can control this.
Right.
Funny thing here is like the only person I can delete on this is me.
We've switched sides.
We like it that way. We like it that way. There we go. Now I'm in my spot.
This is what the people are here for, is to see us play around with this streaming software. Lots of conversation in the chat still about this women's or Zelena Vega thing. Yeah, I saw Jordan Grace. We're going to talk about that in just a second. She's got to select a secret partner for the tag team championship tournament, Impact Women's Wrestling, Rock says. But I do believe I did read Zelena is out until February, like she doesn't have an option. So, but that was one of the things like they were not using really was her wrestling ability, which she is very good in the ring, and she's very, very tiny. So you can imagine if they already have that problem, like guys like Rob having a problem with tiny people like he does, then you can imagine being a tiny woman. He just has like no respect for you.
I'm warming up to you, Gary. I'm warming up to you.
That's funny. Yeah, you can obviously tell that's my bitter, but I'm 4'9", so it's tough having somebody.
No judgment.
I look up to Rob both figuratively and literally, and it's just tough. It's tough to me. Oh my god. Let's get a couple more things from last week. Speaking of what we were just now, Impact held their turning point event on Impact Plus. It featured 3 title matches. And the results were as follows. Eddie Edwards defeated Sean Davari. We just saw that guy on EWN Primetime Live. Taya and Rosemary defeated Jordan Grace and Tenille Dashwood. Grace was pinned after Dashwood ignored her attempts to tag out, instead focusing on taking selfies. Worth noting, too, Dashwood's photographer is Caleb Conley, who we know from the NWA. So he's hanging out with Tenille Dashwood lately. Brian Myers defeated Swoggle. Crazy Steve had to make the save as Myers continued to beat on Swoggle. Chris Sabin and James Storm teamed up and defeated Team XXXL. And Storm and Sabin did like stereo super kicks, looking good there, and won the match. And Rohit Raju defeated Cousin Jake to retain the X Division title. Eric Young came down with former Triple Crown champion Joe Doring. Both took out the Deeters. I guess the Deeters were down there. I don't know. Willie Mack defeated Moose by disqualification because Moose just kept beating on Mack and wouldn't stop. The referee called it. And the Good Brothers, Rob's best friends, defeated the North to win the Impact Tag Team Championships. So that's nice. And they did the Magic Killer, and there it was. So that they've got another show coming up soon, don't they, Rob?
Well, they had one last night.
Was it last night?
Yeah, which was I mean, you know, I love seeing Luke Gallows and the Machine Gun Carl Anderson do their thing, man, and just like have fun and a lot of self-deprecating humor and just kind of relax and peel back some of the layers and open the veil a little bit, not a whole lot. They're in there just enjoying themselves and trying to just satirize all the stuff that we're talking about, like with Vince and Vega and all that stuff. They're just poking fun at it and really saying a lot of things through this particular venue that we all think but won't say, you know. And these guys can turn around, just completely lampoon everything, and then the very next night win one of the most prestigious tag team titles out there, solidifying themselves as one of the best tag teams currently going on. I'm not going to say one of the best in history, but right now, today, they're one of the best tag teams in the world, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, they've got a good reputation, and a lot of people are behind them. So, yeah. Anyway, Nation Show saying there was a lot of phallic references during Talking Shop-A-Mania. Is that correct, Rob?
Yeah. Well,
Embarrassing laugh.
I have the filter on my TV, so
most of it was just blacked out.
I heard a lot of bleeps, and a lot of them out there were just like,
oh man,
I didn't hear anything.
Why do I believe you?
Yeah, at any time, Petra or Piper can walk in, so I do have that little filter. But man, it is like they are obviously not trying to be taken seriously with this. I mean, they had freaking Chris Jericho open it up. And it was amazing. Like I'm watching it. I had no clue. I saw Chris Jericho and Nick Aldis tweet about, "Don't buy this. It's the worst thing ever." So I was halfway thinking Nick might show up in it. But Jericho opens up the show. I didn't even realize it was him until like 4 or 5 seconds in. So I'm like, "Oh my gosh, freaking Jericho in there!" And they give this funny show, man. And of course, my boy, the Nature Boy Paul Lee, was in there and just made the show. It was a lot of fun. There is a lot of adult humor in this thing. So, this is like going back to what we were talking about back when Carneyland started and that kind of thing. This is not for kids. It's not family entertainment. This is adult entertainment. This is not meant to be mainstream wrestling. It's sort of curiosity or a passion project for them. So, but it was really cool. And then the biggest thing was like the next day I wake up and I see a tweet that the Good Brothers had won the Impact title. So that was pretty cool.
Want to give a shout out to our boy D in the chat from DNC Digital. What's up, buddy? If you guys haven't had a chance and you missed Mission Pro Wrestling's Tournament Out of Hell, D joined us last week for a recap of that show. And it was a lot of fun, and it was cool to have him on and have him be a part of this thing. So check him out, DNC Digital. The rest of that show ended up. Oh, go ahead, Will.
I'll mention I saw. I was looking at some news today, and on WrestlingInc.com they had an interview recently, may have been today, I don't know, with Rocky Romero, who said that Raven was supposed to be on Talking Shop-A-Mania, but literally they just forgot. Like that just got me for some reason. Like, and he explained it. He said that like just with schedules and all that kind of stuff, like he was supposed to be he was on the poster, that whole thing. And then like they just never had him film his part for it. And so it's just like, yeah, Raven was supposed to be there, but we forgot. So I thought that was hilarious.
I wonder if Raven got paid.
Yeah, he showed up here. He showed up here right down the road. I mean, you guys will see it here when you come up here in December. But I have actually, I got to shoot a film, and I think they're going to release it on Fight TV. I actually have it. I produced it myself. It's called Sex Ferguson Meets the Nature Boy. And when you're doing something with Luke Gallows, man, he's this guy's a genius, first of all. This guy's so creative, intelligent, very funny. Kind of crass also, but a lot of what he does is just shooting by the hip, and he thinks things up like on the spot. And it's like, yeah, let's do this, and then you pull it together. So it totally doesn't surprise me that they might have booked like say Scott Steiner or Raven, and then just forgot to fit them in the way the nature. I mean, these jokers pulled Chris Van Vliet into this thing, man. I mean, it was everybody. Brian Pillman Jr. has been in this thing. Mike Bennett's been in this thing. It's crazy the talent that's been involved in Talking Shop, and it's just the modern day wrestling satire,
That's a good point. Dr. Red Tyler, shout out to that guy. I don't trust him. Let's see here. Is anybody else following Tessa Blanchard's social media? She's back in the gym working hard, so hopefully she pops up somewhere soon. I'm hoping at the Rumble. Epic surprise, says Roxas79. I have not been following Tessa Blanchard's social media, I'm sorry to say. But I know. I hope she gets some things straightened out, that she gets to show back up somewhere, because she is immensely talented. So
I just feel like WWE is probably her only option, and I mean that in a way that they're probably the only promotion right now that's not hesitant to work with her because they see star versus like how she is to work with. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I that would probably be the least surprising place that I would see her pop up. Would be WWE, but we'll see. I mean, I'm sure she's going to end up somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, she almost is like has to, but we got Front Row saying in the chat that he doubts WWE will touch her, but I honestly, I'm with Will a little bit on that. I feel like that's, I don't know her, so I don't want to speak out of turn here, but just some of the people that we know in the past that she's had issues with are certainly in all the other places, it feels like. And so it just doesn't feel like anybody else is gonna. So I don't know. We'll see. If she can prove herself and prove things are different, then I guess we'll find out. The only other thing from Turning Point I wanted to mention is Rich Swann did defeat Sami Callihan and retain the Impact World title.
And Deonna Purrazzo, if you didn't mention that, winning back the Knockouts title.
Why did I miss that? I don't know, but you're right. She won a no DQ match against Su Yung and did win the Knockouts title. On that Turning Point show, they also unveiled their 8-team bracket for the Knockouts tag team titles. The belts are going to be returning for the first time since 2013, and that's announced for or let's see here. I think that was. Gosh, I'm trying to remember when they said that was actually going to start. But anyway, I have, as it so happens, Will has taught me a little bit. Boom, there's the tournament right there. So it's going to be Tenille Dashwood and Alicia in the first bracket there versus Havoc and Nevaeh. Hopefully I said that right. And we're also going to see Killer Kelly and Renee Michelle versus Jordan Grace and TBA. TBA is great, I heard. Don't know much.
She kills it.
Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz, our girl Tasha, versus the Sea Stars. Look at that. Ashley Vox coming back on the scene. She's going to be competing. Nobody left for NWA, it sounds like. Deonna Purrazzo and Kimberly versus Taya and Rosemary. So there's your first round in the Impact Knockouts Tag Team Tournament. Just wanted to utilize our abilities mainly and get that thrown up there. So I feel pretty good about that. Look at that. Boom. Boom. I don't know. I had the Zelena tweets, but I got to figure out a way to put them up because all I would do is block out Rob, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Look at here. Look at here.
Rob.
Let's leave those up. Let's leave those up for a while just so people can read them.
We just want people to be able to see what Zelena says.
Rob's like, I want to see.
Oh man. All right. So
thank you. I just want to say thank you to Front Row. This is what your money pays for, our ability to block out Rob. And we appreciate it.
It's fancy stuff. So we'll head into more news as we go along, but let's also preview what's coming up this week because Lord knows there is no lack of wrestling in the business today. So we'll start with, tomorrow is Monday night, and you know what that means? It's Monday Night Raw! And you know who is the worst at telling you what the hell they're going to be doing on the next week's show? It's
Monday
WWE and Rob. Also, Rob also never has any idea what he's doing on this show. But
coming on Raw.
Well, yeah, that's why you're not on Raw.
Well, that's
Robbie
why you
Roode
asked him
is
about.
Never going to be on Raw.
But he could tell you about who was the champion in 1968 and the whole backstory.
That's true. That's why we keep him around, like that amazing, like Hutton information about the world title that he released on the TikTok.
Yeah, we forgot to put that over. Definitely go follow us on TikTok. We've given Rob access, believe it or not, to that account, and he is going to continue to put out some incredible historic clips like that. So if you like wrestling history, which we all do, and I think the whole NWA fam loves historic wrestling narratives, go follow that because Rob's putting out some great stuff over there.
Yeah, for as much as I pick on him, he's an integral part of the Bearded Trio.
Every time I log into TikTok, though, I have to call Gary and be like, "Hey, man, Here's the access code. Type in 36 on your phone so I can post. Give me access.
That was my wife was getting pissed at me the other day. She was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm trying to help Rob do something. He needs to TikTok and he can't."
Yeah. Hey man,
common story.
Next thing they're gonna put me on fries, and then management.
DNC Digital saying it's just going to be filled with Rachel Rose related content. That's accurate. No.
And they all end with Tanya like attacking him.
That's a good idea.
Oh no! Walking in.
Hey, I'm in.
I didn't know Renee Michelle is Drake Maverick's wife. I did not know that, Joe. Thank you for sharing that. Also, DNC threw up Killer Kelly and Kimberly are competing in the tournament. They'll be at the next Mission Pro show, so that's cool. That is cool to know. Also, I guess worth mentioning, Genocide showed up on AEW. Was it Dark last week? I think. So they're all growing up. It's just you love to see it. Let's see here. So the only thing I could find for WWE Monday Night Raw was that the New Day, Kofi and Xavier, are taking on Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. So that is happening. And the WWE Championship match that's going to be taking place. And I guess that they figure that's what's going to sell the show either way. Randy Orton is defending the championship against Drew McIntyre. Those two will be going head to head for the 152nd time this year.
Yeah.
But the idea I think is they're going into Survivor Series and you get all these champion versus champion matches. So there's potentially going to be either Randy Orton versus Roman Reigns at Survivor Series, or if Drew can get the win here, it's going to be Drew versus Roman. I think probably the bigger match, considering no storyline involved aside, the match I think people would rather see is Drew and Roman, I would guess.
Well, Gary, that's a great point. But we are not under any impression that the WWE is interested in what the fans would want. And I can almost assure you it's going to be Roman Reigns defeating Randy Orton, who will still be champion, because I don't know. They're going to have Drew win it back at some point, and they don't want to make him look weak. The WWE rationale is not like normal person logic. And so you kind of have to put yourself in this weird space if you want to try to like predict WWE stuff. For me personally, I think it's going to be Randy Orton still going into Survivor Series. And then after that, they'll have Drew get the title back and all that. So
yeah,
for what it's worth.
Yeah. Apologies, Mongrovian Mike. You're right. It'll be the 153rd time they'll be facing each other this year.
There we go.
So,
very educated fans in the chat, keeping us honest.
Oh, Dr. Red Tyler in the house asking the most prominent question we get every single week. Rob, tell Dr. Red, are we any closer to an NWA Power restart up at all?
Yes, we are at least 1 week closer than we were last week.
There you go.
Boom.
We are
Facts.
getting closer.
Facts.
You know it, Daddy. We are on our way. We're headed right down the road. It's coming back. Promise.
Bet.
Oh, right. Rob's spending a little too much time on TikTok. He's starting to come out with all these sayings.
Kids are saying new things like bet and psych.
I said psych in middle school. That ain't new.
No, they just came out with that, man.
That's why he's a doctor, folks.
That's true. Thanks, RJ.
Oh, man. Darren, you are not alone. Darren Lapointe in the chat saying, I've been getting everything about WWE third hand for a couple of years now, and I still understand about as much as when I watched it every day.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Same, bro. Same.
Yeah, I haven't watched the show. I haven't watched it. I mean, I watch the pay-per-view sometimes. I'll have it on the background when we're doing our show if we're talking about it, but I haven't watched like Raw or SmackDown in a couple of years. I listen to What Culture wrestling podcast every day, and I get their like 5-minute recap, and that's about it. And it doesn't really sound like anything has changed, so nothing's really inspired me to go back and watch.
Oh, man, before we head into Tuesday, I do have to tackle this Woodland Goblin question, bringing up the real news. Gary, what's your favorite whiskey? Is it Jameson? Oh, granddad. I do love some Jameson from time to time. It's warm like a mother's love going down my gullet. Just beautiful. It makes me feel all fuzzy. But lately I drink, I'll tell you what. I drink Proper 12, which is Conor McGregor's brand. I do like that a lot. I actually just really like it. And yeah, I bought it because of Conor, but I just ended up liking it. But Bullet Bourbon, the rye variation, is one of my faves. And I also really like Larceny. If you want to spend less but still get a pretty good taste, Larceny's great. Larceny is not expensive at all. Also, Jim Beam Devil's Cut is honestly pretty good.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say Devil's Cut. I like that, and I like the Evan Williams White Label 100 proof.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's some good stuff too. Old Evan Williams. But
we cook with that. We bought it because we were like cooking with it. You know, we were like marinating our steaks in it, and then I was like, man, that's just how we can't just be pouring all this on the steak. So I tried it. It's like that. This is actually pretty smooth, and it's the White Label, 100 proof, and you know it's mint. It's like table whiskey, but man, it's smooth as silk. But I like that Devil's Cut. It's probably my favorite, and Jameson too.
Well, the White Label's a little different. I mean, that's, you know, like when I worked in the restaurant industry, the chefs there would use Evan Williams to cook with a lot of the time, but like the Green Label stuff. So that's like the cheapest one, I think. But that was like the house, like whiskey or whatever. And so anyway, RJ, I just had peanut butter whiskey when I was up in Tennessee, went to Gatlinburg, and I bought some from that place, and I can't think of the name of the place now. But anyway, they had some peanut butter whiskey.
Old Smoky, Tennessee. Yeah,
and it had that. It was that distillery, and you could get like samples and stuff. The peanut butter, I love peanut butter, and the whiskey was good. It's a little sweet, and I'm not into like sweet drinks too much. I do like an old fashioned or a hot toddy, that kind of thing. But
man, you know what the best whiskey based cocktail is, man, and you guys probably know this, but for our listeners, since we're talking about general culture here too, man, the Sazerac is the greatest American cocktail, boy. That is the oldest American cocktail. It was founded in America. It was actually created in New Orleans. It's the derivative, like a French or a Cajun word that sounds like Sazerac, and that's where the word comes from. But the restaurant in New Orleans where it was created is still functional. It's on Frenchman Street.
Been there, bro. Love it.
It's amazing, man. The Sazerac. That is Dr. Stinson's, Dr. Rob's cocktail of choice, and Will's too.
Oh, thank you for speaking for me. Thank you.
Yeah. Nation Show saying if Thunder Rosa loses on Wednesday, you may see Whiskey Gary. You may.
That's true.
Yep, it's possible. I did see who said it. Brendan up top saying hammer scotch. Now that we could have some hammer scotch. That would be fantastic. Wrestling with the MMA. Look at him jumping in here. Evan Williams doesn't lose as much of the flavoring when cooking with it as the other blends do.
He's right. He's right. We've cooked with Jim Beam, with Jack Daniels, and those are all fine bourbons. You know, there's nothing wrong with them. But for some reason, Evan Williams is like it's meant to cook with. If you look at like any like 5-star restaurant when they're cooking with bourbon, it's always Evan Williams.
Yeah, God bless Mongrovian Mike bringing us back with the mix of whiskey and wrestling. How about some Mongrovian Oak Barrel questionable cut?
Ooh, yeah. Me and Mongrovian Mike shared a bottle of that one time, man, and I only remember I questioned the occasion. You know, me and Mongrovian Mike, boy, we tore it up that night. Remember that, boy?
Good stuff. All right, let's jump into Tuesday. What's going on this week on Tuesday, so we don't lose any more people with us just talking about whiskey on a wrestling podcast.
We've gained people.
Yeah, man.
You might be right. Hey, we're being authentic. We're having a good time. Just bring, if you got a favorite whiskey, let us know. Tuesday, features a match between the former NWA Women's Champion and the winner of the very first Bloodsport Women's Tournament, when Thunder Rosa takes on Lindsay Snow, the American Kaiju. This is Lindsay Snow's AEW debut, I believe, and she defeated Allison Kay in the Bloodsport tournament. Let's see here. This is Rosa's first AEW match since September, I think. These two, this is number 2 in their matchups, and y'all, if you ain't seen Lindsay Snow, you're in for a treat. If you hadn't seen Thunder Rosa, where the hell you been sleeping? And if you hadn't seen these two fight, get ready for your mind to be blown. These two women bring it every single time. If you want to go back and check it out on the Title Match Network, they fought for the first time at Mission Pro Wrestling's Hell Hath No Fury, and it was the best. These two women are badass, and I can't believe this is an AEW dark match that you're going to be able to watch for free on YouTube. You gotta check it out.
Yeah, I'm stoked for this. I mean, as you mentioned, I think a lot of us did watch Mission Pro Wrestling when that was the main event for Hell Hath No Fury, and I mean, Rob, you were there live, but we were watching, and it was just as good. So I don't usually watch dark live. I'll go back and watch if I hear there's something worth going back and watching. But I'll be watching dark live this week. Just because, man, that's a main event match any night of the week when you put that on. So Rob, I'm sure you're over the moon about it.
Bro, man. What I got in my hand right now is the current issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated. This is the annual Women's 100. It's a great publication. There's a fantastic article by our friend Brian Solomon in there. He always does such good. But I just like this 100 list pains me. Now, when you're in the top 25, that means you're among the elite. As much talent as there, and I know that the crop of women's talent is a lot thinner just numerically than men's are out there. But if you're in the top 25, you're elite. The problem that I have with this list is that Lindsay Snow is not even mentioned in it. We're talking about the Bloodsport champion, and I know they're going off of last year's data and stuff, but Lindsay Snow's been working it. And my gosh, man, this woman is going to be a household name very, very soon. And we all seen it. We all seen her emergence. I mean, she's been around working it for a long, long time. But I said it months and months ago that Lindsay Snow and Thunder Rosa was the Super Bowl. Now we get to see Super Bowl 2 right here, man. I cannot wait. And gosh, anytime you got 2 of my 3 favorite women's wrestlers in the world locking up, anytime they do that, I have no words. So we'll see what happens.
Our boy Brendan Tungate in the chat bringing up an excellent point that I hadn't even put together for some dumb reason. But we're going to see Lindsay Snow twice on Tuesday because she's also going to be featured on UWN Primetime Live, which we'll jump into in a few. But this dark is stacked, guys. I mean, there is like a 13-match card here. And this is the top of it, I think. But Jack Evans is taking on Christopher Daniels, Joey Janela versus Marco Stunt, Frankie Kazarian versus Griff Garrison, TNT versus Jurassic Express, The Acclaimed versus D3, Layla Hirsch versus Tesha Price, Penelope Ford versus Reign Victoria, Ivelisse with Diamante is taking on Alex Gracia, a Mission Pro Wrestling veteran there. Big Swole is taking on Kylan King, and Gun Club versus BSHP. And Ricky Starks is taking on Travis Titan, and Brandon Cutler is taking on Ryzen. That is a lot of matches. This is they're just shooting for the moon here on this AEW Dark, like throwing into some stuff. I have seen criticism with Dark that they wish there was more like carryover between Dynamite and Dark and that sort of thing. But this WWE or Front Row bitches here, give them credit too. They are Tony Khan and company are busted ass featuring a lot of independent talents on AEW Dark, which is really, really cool to see.
Yeah, you shouldn't nitpick about Dark, man. Dark, I guess, for those of us in the NWA fam, This is sort of the functional equivalent of like circle squared. You're showcasing talent. The point of Dark, and there have been times when the narratives have intertwined, but this is a time to. It's always filmed the week before. So what we're seeing Tuesday was filmed last week, and it's usually right. It's usually the undercard to the live Dynamite show for that week. So it's fantastic, and this is a kind of like what UWN is doing. It's a menagerie. It's out there to get talent out there, and when you got a 14 match card, it is stacked and it's doing its purpose. And you can't, for free, just on through the magic of YouTube, you cannot fault Dark for what they're doing. It's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I mean, it's you can't view it as like a companion show. And AEW has kind of they've actually announced that I think they signed on, and I don't know if the pandemic put this off, but they are looking at doing another TNT show. So they would have 2 live shows a week, kind of like Raw and SmackDown. And that show would tie in a lot more to the storylines and stuff like that. But from the beginning, Dark was just a way to use their platform to have something on YouTube to showcase new, undiscovered, talent or people that they, weren't able to use because they have 1-2 hour live show a week. And so I think it's accomplishing its purpose. And they've even gone so far as to really do a great job of including unsigned independent talent and giving them a stage and a spotlight. And I mean, yeah, to Front Row's point, I commend them for that. I think it's another reason. I mean, we talk about AEW a lot. I feel like we have to defend them a lot, but it's another thing that sets them apart from WWE in that they're going out of their way to spotlight these talents and these people. And so, I mean, it's commendable.
Impact also has a show on Tuesday night. I could not get a fix on that, on exactly what the complete lineup there was either, but we just want to make sure to mention it. But the other event that we've obviously already hinted at is UWN Primetime Live. You know where we're going to be. We're going to be watching UWN Primetime Live for sure, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern on Fight TV. You guys have to check it out. They just wrapped up getting to the finals of their UWN Heavyweight Championship tournament. We've had a lot of great people on the show, like Danny Limelight, who will be featured this week on UWN Primetime Live. No announcement yet, I don't believe, on who he is taking on yet. If you missed it last week, Chris Dickinson defeated Fred Rosser. Real Buddy Brothers and Cam defeated 4 Minutes of Heat and Will Allday. Lacey Ryan defeated Viperous. Aaron Stevens and JR Kratos controversially defeated James Storm and Eli Drake for the NWE. And I'm doing a terrible job of this. NWA Tag Team Championships. And Mike Bennett defeated Sean Davari. So we know for sure that Mike Bennett is taking on Chris Dickinson for the UWN Primetime, just UWN World's Heavyweight Championship. I always drop out the world just out of respect for my boy Rob. But the UWN Heavyweight Championship, that was officially announced.
It's an open weight championship too. So
there you
drop
go.
That heavyweight out. All
right, the UWN Championship. That championship we've found officially. I saw on Twitter, UWN has announced that finals match will take place on the 24th. So that's next week, not this coming week, but the following Tuesday, you'll get to see Mike Bennett versus Chris Dickinson in the main event for that championship match. This week on the show, Ray Rosas is going to be defending the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood Heritage Championship versus his former Static partner it's Andy Brown, and he's now with SoCal Distancing. So he's going to be defending that title. Like I said, Danny Limelight's going to be there. And of course, Ruby Reyes, who we've seen and is certainly a badass on the California scene in women's wrestling. She will be returning to Primetime Live to take on the reigning Bloodsport champion, Mrs. Lindsay Snow. Or Miss Lindsay Snow. I don't know if she's married. The American Kaiju. She's going to be there.
She's not married.
Rob's been following. Rob's been making sure. But so that's going to be badass. You get twice in one night, you get some American Kaiju Lindsay Snow. So that's if you're not familiar with her, make Tuesday Destination Wrestling Day for you. So if for nothing else, you get familiar with the American Kaiju because she's worth your time. And we firmly here on this show believe she is a future superstar in the wrestling industry. Would you agree, Rob?
Oh, most definitely. Absolutely. 100%, $1,000,000%.
There you go. I would like to throw in here, as this is as good a point as any, Rob and I had a chance, speaking of UWN Primetime Live, Mr. Todd Kennelly has been one of the beautiful voices of Primetime Live, and he's been so good to the show, constantly mentioning stuff, taking terminology from here. We've never spoken to the guy in our lives, and he's just name dropping, throwing out phrases, doing things, and just recognizing the show. God bless him. I say God bless him a lot, but I have a lot of people for God to bless, okay? Anyway, my thing is, Rob and I, just the other day, had a chance to sit down and talk to Mr. Todd Kennelly and get to the bottom of his mentioning of the show, what goes in, how he got into the place that he's at. Obviously, Todd Kennelly is a former Impact Wrestling commentator. He's been all over the world doing what he's doing, and he's even had some interactions with the WWE, which you'll hear a lot about. This will be, I think, and Rob, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think the most informative interview about Todd Kennelly, and also a very in-depth interview about the position of commentary in general. I think I got to ask him like all of the nerdy, stupid questions that maybe he's heard them before, but that I've always wanted to ask and just never did. And Todd was super generous with his time and hung out with us for a while. And I plan on dropping that interview tomorrow if I could make sure it's all wrapped up. We had some audio issues, but I think you guys are going to stick with us on this. But I think something was going on with his mic or something. But anyway, we're planning on dropping that tomorrow, 6:05. That's the goal. That's what I want to do. But anyway, Rob, go ahead.
Our podcast is, we have fun, guys. We're a family, we hanging out, and that's part of it. But we are also an educational platform too. And you're going to learn a lot from this interview. I mean, I learned a lot from this interview. And Gary's talking about the art of play-by-play versus color and all that kind of stuff. There are some audio issues. It is all listenable and everything. You just have to. It's like when he was hitting his computer or something, the mic would go out, and that happens a number of times. But bear with this interview because I think everybody's going to be rewarded by it. And this is a guy who, if you listen to us on Tuesday night, we've had our criticisms of UWM Primetime. There's a lot of great stuff. There's a lot of stuff to question and debate. But one thing we've not debated is the value of Todd Kennelly and what he brings. This is a guy who is up there. He's quickly joining the ranks of the great commentators up there with Mike Tenay and Gordon Soley and Tony Schiavone and Jim Ross and all that. And he's in that discussion. And he was so gracious and has been gracious to us. Give this a listen, man. And it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed spending. We spent an hour and a half with him, 2 hours, something like that.
Yeah, at least it was insane how generous he was with his time, just like super chill, that guy. And yeah, it just, I mean, I think you guys are going to dig it just because of how real he is as a person, and just talking about where his roots lie, like how he learned what he does, like all of the stuff you normally expect. But I think like the fun, nerdy questions that wrestling fans have about commentary and that sort of thing are in there. And that's what there was almost nothing that I didn't get to talk to him about that I wanted to talk to him about. And this guy he's been in there with the best of the best. I mean, this is a guy who's been on commentary with a Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan match. He's been friends with Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan, like getting him jobs and getting him the job on Impact, for instance, and that sort of thing. So it's cool to hear some of the stories Todd has. He's a very knowledgeable guy about the business and what we should expect. And I should say too, just to Rob's point about the criticism, he's even pointed out that, he hears the criticism that we have, but he seems to value it. Like he takes it like that they evolved the show. Like they actually, it's crazy, man. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but he legitimately tells us in the interview that he's got an hour drive after UWN Primetime Live. And what's he doing on that hour drive? It's listening to our after show on the way and taking it in, seeing what worked, what didn't work, so that we can work on that for the next week. And I thought that was just, I don't know, just gives you goosebumps to hear.
No, right. I mean, I was like, man, I know you're tired after that, and you probably don't get to hear us, because I really didn't. I thought he was just like, hearing like our micro content or whatever, just chiming in from here and there, but he was like, no. And I dropped that point. I was like, I know you're tired and you don't probably get to hear our show all the time. And then like about 45 minutes later, he brings it back. And he's like, Rob, I want to correct you on something. He's like, I've listened to every show. He's like, when I am tired, but I got to have something to keep me interested and awake on the way home. What I do on the way home, I put your show on, man. And I've listened to every show. So it was very humbling and very appreciated.
Yeah, so we're obviously grateful for Todd Kenley. We also get into, I don't remember if it's on the recorded version or not, but we got to get into about how Will no-sold his name drop on last week's show.
Listen, man, there was a lot. I actually totally missed it live. And I didn't know until Rob texted me and pointed it out to me. And I think you guys all missed it too, right? Or you didn't tell?
Yeah, I told him, I was like, I didn't even hear you say. I mean, I missed it all, but I saw in the Discord people mention that this is the NWA, but he was like, well, he's like, I've tried to like name all of you on the show too. And he's like, I got Rob and I got Carrie. And he's like, I mentioned Will. And he's like, Will, I don't know. He just didn't seem to care.
Well, I heard it, man. I heard it, but it was like, he mentioned Will first, and then he dropped like J Cal and the Alliance blog and all that, and then like our Discord blew up. So I just assumed, that Will was being cool about it, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, I get mentioned on nationally televised wrestling programs all the time. No, I totally missed it. I think in the moment I was literally like basking in the glory of seeing those belts again, and I was honestly like caught up in James Storm fever again, because just seeing him with that belt, hearing that music. And so I missed it live. I did go back and watch, and it was pretty awesome. And so I did text him and had a conversation with him and was like, hey man, thanks for that. So I've talked to him. He knows I've seen it, but man, I hate I couldn't be there for that interview, but I can't wait to listen to it. 'Cause man, that dude, I mean, we put him over all the time, but he is the consistent bright spot on that show, regardless of our criticisms of the booking and all that kind of stuff. I would not have anyone else be the voice of UWN Primetime Live other than Todd Kenley.
Amen. All right, let's move into Wednesday. Thunder Rosa, again, this lady's everywhere, getting her rematch for the NWA Women's Championship. She'll be taking on Serena Deeb, and that's the news. That's the news. AEW is going to feature the NWA Women's Championship. Deeb defeated Thunder Rosa, obviously, for the NWA Women's Championship on October 27th. And at Full Gear, she retained against Allison Kay. Whether or not they even mean to, I was thinking about this earlier, whether or not they're even trying to do this, I swear to God, it seems like there's actually like there's a workable like depth chart to like the competition for the NWA Women's Championship. Like it feels like there's like contenders that are moving up and down between like an Allison Kay, Serena Deeb, Thunder Rosa, Lindsay Snow, like all of these people, like they keep interacting and they keep having matches against each other. It just feels like there's actually, you can see people working themselves back into title contention and that sort of thing. But Rosa obviously interrupted after the AK victory over AK that Serena Deeb had, saying she wanted a match. Well, she's getting that this Wednesday night, and that'll be like, I mean, Deeb's third match with the title, I think. Let's see, yeah, because sorry, I was looking through here. She defeated Layla Hirsch, and then she defeated Allison Kay, and so now she's going to be taking on Thunder Rosa. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. Any predictions, Rob, on Thunder Rosa versus Serena Deeb on that match?
And I hate to root against Serena Deeb. I really do, because she's got a great story and everything. But I mean, what kind of question is that, Gary? The Destruction Tour resumes. The second quest for the Burt comes to a culmination on Wednesday night, and my prediction is that Thunder Rosa will walk out. Look, I'm not saying bet your house on it, but bet your boat on it. Thunder Rosa walks out with the Burt Wednesday night, guaranteed.
Will, how you feeling about it?
Well, I'm never ever betting on anything that Rob tells me to bet on again. Come
on now.
And listen, we won't get into why, because it's over. But
it's not over.
Stop. But I do agree with you, Rob. Obviously, my heart tells me Thunder Rosa walks out. My head has some doubts, but I'm going to go with my heart and say that Thunder Rosa regains the title and continues the Destruction Tour.
All right. I think I'm with you. I mean, look, I think we all want it. We don't understand why it's not still the Destruction, or, in our minds it always is, but we'll see. I don't know. James Lawrence in here saying he believes Rosa's going to win it back, makes Steve a 2-week champion like Aldis did to Rhodes. Yeah, I don't know. Brandon Tungate, who gave me props for pronouncing his last name properly earlier. Thank you. I'm glad that worked out. Says, I hope TR wins, but I can see Deeb winning. Britt talking mess and TR turning her attention to that. Patazos, poor Britt. LOL. Yeah, if you guys missed that, Britt Baker DMD did throw out a comment towards Thunder Rosa. I wish I had taken it down, and it did not. But she basically saying that, go back to where you came from, or stop wrestling exclusively on the internet, basically, or, you don't belong here, yada, yada, yada. Thunder Rosa did reply, as Brendan pointed out there. She said, what's funny is I did more for your whole company in one promo than you've done the entire time you've been there. And if you want to talk trash, I got Patazos for you too. So,
and the two of them have done more for a lot of pro wrestling promotion with just those two tweets than a lot of people have done in the past year. So I thought it was a brilliant tweet. I mean, Britt Baker's tweet, she ended it with something to the effect of, you don't even have half a face for TV or something like that, which I thought was brilliant.
Oh yeah.
And then Thunder's reply was just perfect. Yeah, she's right. She's like, I came in, I did more with 2 appearances than you've done in your whole career at AEW. So I love it. I think Britt Baker has become a phenomenal heel, and I can see that turn it into a great match or series of matches. I would love for the Burt to be around Thunder Rosa's waist for those matches. So we'll see how it goes.
Yep. Gosh, I mean, Britt Baker, I like her a lot, man. I do. I'm with you, Will. But I'm like, and Serena Deeb, I hate to root against her too, just with her story and what she's done and the achievement. But look, I mean, I'm looking at Thunder Rosa's social media, and she's like doing this appearance this weekend in the Bronx. You know what I mean? And there are people out there like in the Bronx, like in the street, like Thunder Rosa. You're not going to see that for Britt Baker. You're not going to see that for Serena Deeb. You're not going to see that for anybody. Only Thunder Rosa has that level of like national, and I would dare say international, like grassroots phenomenal power. And I just can't imagine like Thunder Rosa not walking out Wednesday without that belt. I just can't imagine it.
Shouldn't happen. I can tell you that much. I mean, God bless. There I go again. Serena Deeb's amazing, is all I'm going to say. She is a fantastic wrestler. God bless her. I don't know why that's my new thing. Like I just started. Just God bless us, everyone. Maybe it's the Christmas spirit. Just like get.
You go to church. You go to church today or something?
Yeah. No, I'm trying not to be set on fire. You
can go to Rob's church.
Oh yeah. As a Presbyterian.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Me and Front Row go to church together.
Do you?
We're in the same denomination.
Well,
Universal Church, baby.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, the rest of Dynamite lines up like this. Pac is back. The Bastard is back. He's taking on the Blade. That should be a lot of fun. He's starting a destination feud for Eddie Kingston, it looks like. And, well, that sounds fantastic to me.
Yes,
and, TNT champion Darby Allin and Cody take on Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. That sounds fun. AEW Tag Team Champions, the Young Bucks versus Top Flight in a non-title match. Not familiar with those guys. Orange Cassidy versus Kip Sabian. And the Inner Circle, they're going to Las Vegas thanks to MJF. So, talk all the trash you will, but the stuff with MJF and the Inner Circle this past week, I actually didn't get a chance to watch all this till earlier today, but AEW is good, man. I can't help it. I'm sorry if I'm supposed to hate it, but the whole show was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And just every little bit of it Taz and Team Taz, Starks and Cage, like they were awesome. And just the stuff with the Inner Circle and MJF, with MJF reading the lyrics, saying some poetry that he put together that his homies would like or whatever. And what are their names? Pride, Powerful,
Pride and Prejudice.
Pride. That's what keeps coming into my brain, and I'm like, that's not what it is.
Proud and Powerful.
Yeah, Proud and Powerful. And anyway, those guys, and it's Drake lyrics, and they're like, come on, man. Drake lyrics, he's like, I don't even know who Drake is. Relax. Anyway, I started from the bottom, now I'm here. And I don't know, man. I loved it. MJF is so good. And then, all the stuff with Eddie Kingston. That match between Ray Phoenix and his brother, whose name I just forgot for some. What is wrong with me? Is it the beard? Pentagon. God help me. Pentagon and Phoenix took on each other. They were like ripping each other's masks off and just going at it in that sly way. Eddie slides in at the end of the night and like pushes Phoenix out of the ring and is like, hey, you're my best friend. You're my best friend. Like it just, I dug it. I dug the whole thing. And you know what? I dug the whole thing without one match from not one appearance from Hangman Page, not one match from the Bucks, not one match from Omega, not one match from Moxley, not one match from Cody. I dug, like, even Darby didn't even have a match, I don't think. And it's like, that's pretty impressive. That's a cool roster they've built over there that I loved that whole show without all those guys. Will, did you get a chance to watch it? I don't know. Am I rambling too much about this?
No, I didn't get a chance to watch it, but I'm with you, man. I mean, AEW, in terms of just the being as visible as they are putting out a great product, and their roster is deep. I mean, if you're in the camp of people that say that AEW, and when they launched, this was the case, that AEW, if you watch AEW, you're just going to get the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and Cody, that they're going to be all spotlighted all the time, then you haven't watched it in a while, because they have not gone that direction. I mean, Cody took a few weeks off a little while back when he originally lost the TNT title. Omega has been kind of on again, off again. The Bucks have had some injuries. I mean, they've all kind of stayed relevant, but they have really built a stacked roster, and they've introduced us to a lot of new people. They've introduced the world to people like Ricky Starks and Eddie Kingston and things like that. So, I mean, they've even made the Dark Order relevant. I mean, when they first started, I remember rolling my eyes at the Dark Order, and I think they've put a lot of work to get those guys to a place. So if your opinion of the Dark Order is based on when AEW first introduced them, you need to go revisit even the Dark Order, because they've evolved into something that is very interesting and very, I think, beneficial to the stories that they're telling. So there's a lot there. I mean, there's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot to be interested in as a wrestling fan.
Rob, are you keeping up with AEW?
Yeah, I actually thought this particular episode of Dynamite was one of the more superior episodes here in a number of weeks. There wasn't a whole lot of like chicanery, it was pretty much prize fighting down the aisle. I was thinking that James Lawrence might have been more or less moderately pleased with this episode, and everything that Will said, I just would accentuate. I mean, we were talking about a promotion that not only through Dark has given this avenue for all this talent, but on its flagship show, it's showcasing Ricky Starks and Eddie Kingston and bringing back greats like Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. And you gotta love MJF, man, and what he's doing. When it's not too over the top, it's pretty funny and entertaining. And man, this particular episode of Dynamite was a lot of fun. I love the whole Drake thing, the poem that MJF wrote. I thought because like he was saying that, I was like, wait, hold on now. Piper was just talking about that. It was pretty good, man. So I don't have any ill things to say about AEW right now. I think they're doing a good job for promoting pro wrestling in general and even prize fight wrestling.
Yeah, I know I disappointed our boy James Lawrence in the chat by that. He's an adamant AEW hater, and I mean that with love, James Lawrence. But
God bless him.
He's lightened up, though. But he has lightened up, though. He's much more open-minded about it than he was like when we first started talking about it.
Yeah, that's true.
He also just shares his opinion. He never belittles us for liking it. So I respect that about him.
That's what this is about. That's what makes this community here the best, because we're cool. He doesn't like him. He gives his points. We give our points, and then everybody's still buddies at the end of the day. Rob brought up an interesting point that I actually thought a lot about this episode of AEW Dark was Tully being there with Sean Spears. Like, just seeing him there was something about that. Like, just he didn't even do a lot or anything. I mean, well, I say that, but he did assist in the win of the match. But Rob, that was one of the coolest parts for me that's been disappointing me constantly in WWE. And this is not for me to like pile on here on them, but it's just that they're actually utilizing this talent that we all love and respect from the earlier years of wrestling. They're bringing them back, and they're still vibrant, valid talent. You know, sure, they may be the rugged veterans, the guys that, you know, they don't have it in the ring anymore, but they're not like shriveled up old men who are useless and just comedy acts either. They're like still Tully Blanchard is what that should be. Tully Blanchard is the guy who had the experience, did the deal, and now he's taking it to the next level and trading the next generation of talent. He's out there as a legitimate, intelligent mind in the corner of Sean Spears, guiding him to become the best version of him he could be. And that's
right.
What better use could you have for your talent than that? In an era where if you've only watched WWE, it's just like they're all jokes. All of the past wrestlers are kind of jokes, it feels like.
And that's what you have to respect. One of the big things you must respect about AEW, say what you want about like storylines and this and that, but they make a conscientious, deliberate effort to attempt to bridge the past with the present, whether it be by drawing in guys like Jake the Snake Roberts or Tully Blanchard Arneson, or even their main talent, the Cody and Chris Jericho. Cody's not an old guy, but Chris Jericho, Scooby just pointed out, Chris Jericho is 50 years old, man. You know, he is a seasoned veteran, and they're using this to bridge the gap, and they're elevating and raising up this young talent like MGF, who is the Chris Jericho of the future. No one can doubt it. Like him or hate him, this guy is like crazy talented. And so AEW is doing that. There is a certain mission orientation there to not only draw in like the current contemporary relevant stars like Thunder Rosa, Statlander, you know, Britt Baker, all these guys, you know, Eddie Kingston, Ricky Starks. They're also deliberately bridging the present with the past by using mainstays like Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, and nobody else does that. I mean, New Japan does, you know, to some degree. But
and let's not forget about Dustin Rhodes, man. Like that, Dustin Rhodes is a literal bridge, because when I was like 8 and was watching WCW Saturday Night, I was watching Dustin Rhodes, and now I still get to see him be relevant and be he gave an interview I think it was him and QT Marshall, maybe on Full Gear. And I was just like, man, he is, I'm not going to say he's in his prime, but he still got it, man. And like, they're not, to Gary's point, they're not using him as a comedy act. They're not using him as a draw. He's in storylines. He's a legit wrestler. They're paying homage to his history and his experience, but not in a way that makes him seem like a novelty, in a way that just legitimizes his spot on the roster. And that's something I really appreciate.
Yep.
Our boy Jason Hawkins in the chat backing you up on that, Will, saying he's doing some of the best work in his career right now. I 100% agree. I'm glad you brought him up because he was going to be my next point, actually, was that watching him in the match with QT Marshall when they took on the Butcher and the Blade, that match was a bloody battle. But for some reason, the only thing I thought of, like, when Dustin Rhodes first walked out, he looked so badass and just like, my initial thought was, if Billy could get anything out of this, get us a Dustin versus Nick Aldis feud for the 10,000 gold. Like, I think that would be a fun feud to have. Like, those two going head to head would be just, even the dynamics of their characters would be just fantastic to see. I think those two could take everybody to school if we could see that.
Yep.
Jason Hawkins, I know this guy. He lives in Georgia. He lives down in Calhoun, and he has this guy like knows wrestling. This is a guy that if he says that Dustin Rhodes is doing some of his best work, you better bank on it because this guy knows wrestling better than anybody I know.
Yeah, Brendan says, I heard AEW called the MCU of wrestling, a giant crossover of all sorts of wrestling from every era. That's a cool comparison. But somehow in here, too, we've been talking this whole time, and Brian Rosas challenged us to a 3-on-1 handicap match. So I don't know. He's trying to take us to the shed. So I don't know what we did to Brian Rosa, but now he's threatening to kick all of our ass.
You got front row to blame for that. There's a comment a little ways up the chat, which I did not. That did not come from me.
Thanks, front row. Thanks for this beating that's coming. To us, not to Brian, obviously. Oh man. All right, let's see what else is going on. Next week's edition of all right, let's start over. Next week on Wednesday, since we're on Wednesdays, NXT's looking okay too. I think they've got. I mean, Finn Balor's coming back, and there's a North American Championship match. I think Johnny Gargano's getting a return match against Leon Ruff. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he dropped the belt to Leon Ruff, who is Leon Ruff. But it was like a 1-2-3 kid Scott Hall moment, I think, is what they were going for there. Johnny Gargano wasn't taking the match very seriously, and this out of nowhere, this dude pulled a win out, so got the North American Championship. So very odd indeed. All right, James Lawrence, this guy. If you acknowledge crappy wrestling is good because it gives the NWA props, that's cool. I'll say thanks for helping, but refuse to kiss ass and say something is good when it's not. Gotta love James Lawrence.
Hey. He may be a naysayer, but he's our naysayer. He's our naysayer.
Oh man!
If everyone agrees on everything, it's boring. So,
oh man, Rock says pointing out that I will point out Rock says because he agreed with me. 1-2-3 kid moment. Thank you. Jason saying when AEW launches the new show sometime in 2021, I wish it would be a studio show like NWA Power. That studio show setting and vibe is awesome. That would be cool, Jason. And, I've even heard talk of like people saying they wish that AEW, like Khan, would just try to buy up NWA and make that the other show. Like make that the third show they have to bring to the table is NWA Power, which, could be interesting. But anyway.
I just want, and that's cool. I just think that the studio thing is it's great, but it is distinctively NWA and UWN. You know, it's distinctively a UW. In these days, it's distinctively an NWA thing, and so it's like if AEW were to do that, it would be aping something that's really not their niche. You know, it's not their thing. It's not their style. And I don't have any problem with that at base, but I just don't want it to take away from the magic that the NWA is. And again, the flagship of the NWA is the studio promotion. UWN is trying to carry that on, and they're doing a great job. But we all want power back, and I don't see. You can't sell me on any substitute but power. You know what I'm saying? Or any substitute for power. That's what I really want. That's what I'm living and breathing for. And everything else is like a holdover until I get there. So
that makes sense. So Thursday, somebody want to correct me here? I could not find anything for Thursday. Does anything happen? Is that the only free day from wrestling? Is Thursday?
I think so.
We don't have Thunder. We don't have WCW Thunder. Oh, that's. I'm sorry.
Oh, Thunder, bringing it back! Wow. Oh, I remember those days. Those were the days. So moving on to Friday, one thing I can't bring up for Friday is Smackdown, because they've officially announced nothing that I can find. So good.
Sounds awesome.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, really, we got Finn Balor's coming back for NXT. That's a problem, people. You got to know what the hell your show is. Like, you know, it's just because they go up until the hour before and don't even know. And that's just a bummer. I don't know. Anyway, is it part of wrestling like you're going to tune in because you are looking forward to something? And
yep, I mean, historically, you promote a show by the card and you put it in the paper and you get people to buy tickets. And sadly, that's not how WWE looks at it anymore.
Oh, well. All right. Well, thank you, The Nation Show. NXT UK is on Thursdays, just so you know. I have a news item about the UK here for later. We'll get to it because there's actually just more random scatter news after we roll through the week. One thing that is happening on Friday is New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong happens. If you guys haven't been checking that out. It seems like a fun show, like the November 6th episode. I saw people promoting like how strong the wrestling was on it. Fred Rosser beat Jordan Clearwater. Chase Owens beat Danny Limelight. Owens issued challenges to Shingo Takagi and Tetsuya Naito. The main event saw the debut on NJPW Strong of JR Kratos. Who we know now as one half of the NWA Tag Team Champions. So he showed up and he teamed with Russ Taylor and won over Jeff Cobb and Rocky Romero, which seemed like a big upset to everybody there. Kratos, they said, worked like a monster, pinned Romero after a sit-out Death Valley bomb and a wheelbarrow German suplex. This led to a Jeff Cobb and Kratos stare down. And they just put over Kratos big on that show. This week's NJPW Strong was the first night of the New Japan Showdown. The results are online. I think it's Adrian Quest and Alex Zane defeated ACH and Blake Christian. Filthy Tom Lawler defeated Fred Rosser. Juice Robinson, Brody King, and Carl Fredericks defeated the Bullet Club, which is Jay White, Tangaloa, and Chase Owens. And Tamatanga defeated PJ Black. November 20th, though, this week on Friday, is a big one. You're going to see Kenta taking on David Finlay for the U.S. title briefcase. That's what they're using right now to go around while they figure out the get Moxley back into things as the New Japan U.S. champion. Jeff Cobb versus Kratos is going down. That's going to be a big one this Friday. Taylor versus Romero and Clark Connors versus the DKC. Clark Connors and the DKC versus Logan and Sterling Regal. I'm not familiar with those guys too much, but apparently New Japan Strong is looking pretty good these days. So might have to try to check that out a little bit more often. But our boy Kratos is apparently a big deal over there right now.
Well, they like big guys. They always have historically. New Japan, All Japan, International Wrestling Grand Prix. They've always been drawn to the big guys like a Terry Gordy and an Animal and a Dr. Destiny Williams, and Kratos is very much like that. He gives off. I said this the other week. He gives me like Jack Stain vibes. I don't know about you. He's got that look. He's got that size. He's got that persona, and I have a feeling that we're going to be seeing a lot of Kratos here, especially in tag team action coming up in the next several weeks and months.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you're right. I mean, they won the titles. I mean, it's time. I mean, let's at least use them. So, I don't know. All right. Well, let's. Will just disappeared from us. He's pooping. Anyway, Rob, let's jump into this real quick before we go into the rest of the news for the week. How is the tag team title change sitting with you? Almost a week out. You've had time to absorb it and just work with it. How are you feeling about Stevens and Kratos as your new NWA tag team champions?
Man, I mean, I don't blame. I'm not booking anything. I'm just here, I'm just a mark. Just trying to watch this. I had such high hopes for seeing the question mark, and I was disappointed. But I'm not displeased with Kratos at all. I think this guy's he deserves a shot. I think Aaron Stevens has proven that he's a legitimate competitor in whatever dimension, whether it's singles or tag team or whatever. It wasn't the tandem that I was hoping to see, but it's what we got. And, they're the NWA tag team champions. And if that means that we've got this tag team actively defending the tag team championship against one of the great tandems of Eli Drake and James Storm not defending actively the tag team titles, I'd rather see the tag team titles defended. So, I'm going to give them a chance. I mean, my favorite tag team right now isn't even in the NWA. My favorite tag team active is a toss-up between the Briscoes, the Lynch Mob, Matt and Joey Lynch, and the Jungle Kings, Lex E and Kevin Kaufman. So when I get to see them in the picture, then I'm really going to start popping. But right now what I've got is Aaron Stevens and Kratos. They're not a natural tag team, and that's not unusual either. We have a lot of singles guys that are put together and do okay. But I guess my sense is that if I get to see the tag team titles defended versus not getting to see them defended, that's what I'm going to go for. So I'm going to give them a chance and see what they have. They're the champs. They got the gold, and no one can dispute that. So it is what it is.
Well, what I was asking Rob, what you're jumping into, the Aaron Stevens and Kratos winning the tag team titles. How are you feeling about that? Having a week out, thinking about it.
Not much different than I was Tuesday night. I mean, I get Rob's point, and I respect that. As a huge fan of tag team wrestling, and I've said this before, I just really, really prefer when it's a tag team that holds those belts. To be honest, I wasn't super stoked about Eli Drake and James Storm, other than the fact that they're both accomplished tag team wrestlers. So it did make sense. But these just random pairings, I always have trouble with. I mean, I'm a guy that I'm a fan of the Steiner brothers. You know what I mean? I'm a fan of obviously the Road Warriors and tag teams like that. I mean, that's who I associate with tag team gold when I think about it. And so, yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, I definitely, if I had to choose between not seeing the belts defended and seeing, Kratos and Aaron Stevens as champs, obviously I'd choose the latter because I want to see the NWA, tag team championships be relevant and be defended and be prominent. But I would just prefer if they could get it on an actual tag team as soon as possible. And maybe they will. I don't know.
it seems to me that the actual tag team is sort of a dying breed, though.
But see, that's the thing is like that's because of WWE, in my opinion, because somewhere along the way, Vince just completely lost faith in tag team wrestling. And then, we say this all the time, but they are whether you love them or hate them, they're going to be the prominent, when it comes to professional wrestling, they're going to be the most visible and most prominent promotion and show that's out there. So in a lot of ways, whichever way WWE goes with things like that, when it comes to philosophy of wrestling, sadly, a lot of people are going to follow them. That's another reason why I love AEW, because I don't see them going that route. I mean, they've got the best tag division, obviously, between WWE and AEW. I mean, they've got FTR, the Young Bucks, all that. So they are restoring, in my opinion, tag team wrestling in terms of like mainstream wrestling promotions. Mm-hmm. But, sadly, what you're saying, I think, is a result of somewhere along the lines, Vince McMahon just started treating the tag team titles like a way to get two singles guys over, and then eventually have one of them, go win a singles title or something like that. And you're right that it has gone that direction, but I would love to see it restored back to this time where tag team wrestling was a prominent part of any card, and those tag team belts would be like the second to the main event, and you go watch a lot of old NWA WCW pay-per-views and Clash of Champions and stuff like that. I mean, it wasn't that far out there for a tag team match to be the main event on some of those cards.
Oh, and that was, and I wasn't trying to make a value statement about my preferences or anything, because I like tag teams for tag teams. It seems like they're a dying breed, but there were times when you go back to like Starrcade '86. Flair versus Nikita was the undercard. The main event was a tag team match on the scaffold. The Midnight Express versus the Road Warriors, and and you see more of those too. I mean, Von Erichs versus Freebirds, Doom versus whoever. I mean, it just seems like now, like looking at like Eli Drake and James Storm, you got Eli Drake, who is a perennial singles talent, James Storm, who has become a great singles talent, but James Storm is an 8-time NWA World Tag Team Champion. He has held the tag belts more times than the Rock and Roll Express has. He is the most decorated tag team champion active right now. But we don't think of him as primarily a tag team wrestler, do we? We think of him as James Storm, the former national champion who was in Into the Fire in the main event against Nick Aldis. Think about Nick Aldis. Look at Nick Aldis, the British Invasion. We don't think of Nick Aldis as a tag team guy, but he had a great run as a tag team guy. It just seems like now people coming into wrestling with the deliberate intention of, hey, I'm going to be a tag team artist, and the tag team championship is going to be what we aspire to, and that's what we're doing. That doesn't seem to be much of a thing anymore. And I wish it would be. It just doesn't seem to be a thing. And hopefully it comes back,
Right. And again, I think it's partly, like I said, I think it's because of WWE's influence on the industry. But then I think what happens with that is that guys that are coming in and they're aspiring to reach the top of the mountain, they don't want to book themselves into a corner as a tag team. Whereas back in the day, you could do that and you could still reach the highest level. Now, guys kind of see the writing on the wall and they're like, okay, I'll use a tag team to make myself relevant. But then my ultimate ambition is to go be a singles star. And so you don't see guys kind of putting all their eggs in one basket like you did with like the Road Warriors. I mean, those guys had singles matches, but they were the Road Warriors. They were a tag team. I mean, we know what happened with the Steiners and
they split up their thing, but we always knew it was going to be Ricky and Robert. Even the Freebirds. Jimmy Garvin had an illustrious singles career. Terry Gordy had a great singles career. Not so much Buddy Roberts, but Michael Hayes did too. I mean, he did stuff on his own, but they were always the Freebirds, and that's how even the Von Erichs, Carrie Von Erich wins the NWA title, but we still conceive of them as a unit, functioning as a unit.
Well, and that's the thing is you see guys coming up like FTR, right? Formerly the Revival. They were the most traditional tag team that you can think of, made their way to the biggest stage in WWE, and were treated like a joke. They were even champions and treated like a joke. And so that just goes to show you the lack of not just respect, but the lack of importance that WWE puts on traditional tag teams. Right. And like I said, I mean, sadly, and I'm hoping AEW can change that. I'm hoping AEW through FTR and the Young Bucks and Butcher and Blade and Ray Phoenix and Pentagon, these great tag teams that they have spotlighted, can kind of change that trajectory where some of these guys coming up on the independent circuit can see like, hey, I can be part of a tag team and still reach the highest level as a tag team, and possibly be a main event and given the spotlight I deserve and things like that. And hopefully if we can see that happen, we can see the reemergence of great tag team wrestling.
I hope so, because I remember as a kid, man, growing up in here in the South, I remember watching, wrestling gets kids emotional, you know what I mean? But I never, as much as I loved Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes growing up, none of that ever like pulled at my heartstrings like the Rock and Roll Express versus the Midnight Express. I remember on Saturday night, I remember the Midnight Express taking the belts from the Rock and Roll Express. And I remember crying, and my mom, I'm like, how old was I? Was an 10 years old kid, man, just crying like, no, tell me this, just brokenhearted. Nothing in the singles has, as much as I love Flair, him dropping the belt to Dusty at the Bash 86 did not break my heart like the Rock and Roll Express losing the belt to the Midnight Express did. It just, there's such magic with tag team. There's such a symphony that occurs that you don't get with singles wrestling. And I wish we could find that back, man. It's like searching for Bobby Fischer, another chess analogy there, since chess is just like prize fighting. And I did see the Queen's Gambit, by the way, front row was amazing.
It's also, I mean, I get into a lot of philosophy of wrestling too. I mean, you can also look at it with the cultural implications of like tag team wrestling. It carries a lot of weight and it does pull at your heartstrings a lot more because this is two guys or two girls that are a team. They're working together towards a common goal. And if they can achieve that goal, it feels more meaningful than just one guy going out and winning a match. Yeah. And so there's that element to it as well that I think like it just kind of speaks to not to over dramatize this, but it kind of speaks to this like self-centeredness of our culture almost, where we would rather see one guy or one girl achieve something than to see a team work together to achieve something. And so for what it's worth, that's kind of my insight into it.
Well, it's interesting to hear you guys talk about tag team wrestling, and I'm a big fan of tag teams as well. Can't wait for the Crockett Cup to come back. Here's some fun for us to jump into just to move this thing along. One of the big news items for this past week was Dave Meltzer and the Pro Wrestling Observer, or the Wrestling Observer, Figure 4 Online, Brian Alvarez. They run their thing over there. Some guys feel better or worse about Dave Meltzer or whatever for whatever reason. But one of the things you can't deny is how valuable the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame is within the industry. This is so for those that don't know, this is a Hall of Fame that is decided. It's outside of obviously WWE, and it's almost like the Academy Awards in a sense that the people that are voted into this have to have 60% of the vote each time they're in there. There are certain stipulations for like how you get in. Like you have to be put in. You could be removed if like after a certain amount of time. We can talk about that as we go along. But you have to hit 60% of the vote. And the people that are involved in the voting process are actual like wrestling historians, former professional wrestlers, people behind the scenes, that sort of thing. So it's people within the industry that find this person's work valuable. And so each year, I think you get, I could be mistaken on this, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think it's something like you can pick 5 from each category when you submit your ballot, like 5 from modern day, 5 from historical, and like 5 that are non-wrestlers, I think. It's something like that. Anyway, 5 total were inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. So 5 total people in general. The first was in the historical class. That was, let's see here. I had the name. It was Dan Koloff was the gentleman that got inducted from the Hall of Fame in the historical part. He was a huge star in Europe, in particular France and Bulgaria in the 1930s, where he was second only to Jim Londos as a drawing card. He was just a big wrestler overseas, I guess, but he got enough recognition. He made it in on the historical side of things. And here, I'll just do this. I'll show you this. Let's just jump over. You can look at this, and there's a lot to see here. I mean, you could go over to the Pro Wrestling newsletter and see all of this stuff. But Medico Assassino, I hope I'm saying that right. I apologize if I'm butchering that, is also in. Kenny Omega is in this year into the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. Carlos Lagarde and Jun Akiyama all made it in to the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame this year. You can see some of the others that came close. Rollerball, Mark Rocco, Sergeant Slaughter, Don Owen, Los Brazos, Johnny Saint. Yeah, just all in there. Even Edge coming in at 44%. If you read up on this, I mean, Meltzer goes into so much detail on each person. These people were dropped from next year's ballot. Haystacks Calhoun, Don Fargo, Masked Interns, Valiant Brothers, Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, Roman Reigns, Kevin Von Erich, Jerry Estrada, La Fiera. You see all of these. These people have been in it for 15 years, and I think they got less than 50% this time. There's Chavo Guerrero Sr. and Carrie Von Erich got dropped from the Hall of Fame ballot. And if these people don't get at least 50% next year, they'll be dropped. Don Owens, Sergeant Slaughter, Johnny Wrestling 2 Walker.
That's crazy.
Yeah, added to next year's ballot, Nikki Bella, Doral Dixon, Bill Dundee, Seth Rollins, Kazuchika Okada, John Moxley, Hollywood Blondes, the original Hollywood Blondes, Octagon, and Triple A's La Parka, Psycho Clown. So just interesting. And as you can see, there's a lot written here. So it's not just he goes into detail on every little thing, but it's interesting to see how they come to it. And Meltzer's over, the years since the early 80s, I think, developed this listing. And like I said, it's people from the industry voting on it. And they, I think they are trying to make I think the idea is they're legit trying to make a Hall of Fame, like who has an impact on the business, who actually matters, who are the top tier performers of all time, that sort of thing. And so, I've heard conversations like the Observer put out a podcast with Mike Tenay on there with Dave Meltzer and stuff, and they would get into discussions about some of these people, like in a preview episode I heard, where they would talk about guys like Carrie Von Erich, who I feel like is a pretty well-known name. Like we all know Carrie Von Erich, and both of them were anti-Carrie because they, were talking about that he was huge. He was the brightest star in the sky, but as the brightest star always burns out fastest, they say, he didn't have the legacy, didn't have the length of time on top, didn't prove that he was consistently one of the top guys. I think that was their mindset there. Apparently, a lot of other people had that same idea. So for now, Carrie Von Erich's actually just exiting the ballot. But Rob, I see you shaking your head, so I'm curious what you're thinking. I will say that for what it's worth, I mean, these guys like Jun Akiyama, he's huge in the Japanese wrestling scene. He's been like the number 6 of the best singles wrestler in the world in the PWI 500 in 2012. He was number 90 in 2003. He had match of the year in 2001, 2004, 2007, 2011, according to Nikon Sports. He's just He's been all over the place. He had the Observer Match of the Year in 96, 04, 93, 96, 97, 99. So he's a big deal. And then the cool part I thought about, where was it? It was Carlos Lagarde. I wasn't familiar with him, but he is a former NWA welterweight champion. And he actually held that belt. He's a Mexican wrestler, big-time luchador. He held the welterweight championship for like 1,469 days. So he was a big deal. He was all over the place. A Mexican national middleweight champion twice, Mexican national tag team champion one time, national welterweight champion 4 times for them, and the NWA World Welterweight Championship 3 times. So he was voted in. And so anyway, Rob, what are you thinking right now over there? I see just an analytical mind. It's fire.
And it's not such an analytical mind either. I mean, I think first of all, I have all the respect in the world for Meltzer, so don't take this the wrong way. I think, and I appreciate trying to find an objective way to solidify a list. I really do. As an educator, when it comes to like evaluating student performance, you want objectivity as much as possible, but wrestling is not a science. It is a science, but it's also an art. It's both. And so if you're relying on just a formula, then you find yourself in the really curious position. If you're claiming to induct people who have really made an impact on the business, and you're not including Mr. Wrestling number 2, one of the greatest masked wrestlers of all time, you're not including Kerry Von Erich, not only an intercontinental champion, but the NWA World Champion. I'm thinking, like, if I were a college football coach or a manager of a professional baseball team, and I could have one goal, hey, here's your one thing that you get to do. It would be to either win the national championship or the World Series. And Kerry Von Erich did it. He did it. He beat Ric Flair at his peak. He did what only Nick Aldis can do, and that is beat Ric Flair at his very, very best. And then if you want to make the argument that we're only putting people who change the business, then you can't tell me Hall and Nash aren't in there. They are the reason they changed the business. So you have to put in beyond just objective things about like wins, losses, international defenses, championship victories, that kind of thing. You also have to add in subjective things like cultural phenomena, like the emotional impact and the narrative, driving narratives. And Kerry Von Erich, I'm just telling you, if you've got a Hall of Fame and Mr. Wrestling number 2 and Kerry Von Erich and Hall and Nash aren't on it, it's not credible. That's why I was saying last week, we have to come up with an international rating system that truly codifies not who's going to be in some subjective Hall of Fame, but who truly rates people against a metric that is meaningful to wrestling enthusiasts who look at it as a science, but also the marks like us who like can look at someone that's really, really meaningful, like an Andre the Giant. Andre the Giant, he won the WWF Championship under questionable circumstances. It's the only time he won a major title, right? Other than that, he was a big guy. He wasn't particularly talented as a wrestler. He was just big. Does he belong in the Hall of Fame? You're damn right he does. He's one of the greats, regardless of the titles or the ability he held. Whatever metric you use, Andre the Giant should be in there, and he would be in there. But if he's in there, Hall and Nash should be in there. Kerry Von Erich should be in there. Mr. Wrestling 2 should be in there. It's not just axioms here. So, and again, no disrespect to Meltzer. I'm sure, he would come in there and just thrash everything I just said. I'm just a humble doctor, just a humble mark here. Just tell me.
Throw that in there.
Wrestling is not just a science. It's for me, who this is what raised me as a child with no dad. It's more than just science, man. It's about what it means to people. And Kerry Von Erich meant a lot to a lot of people. The whole state of Texas. Brian Rosa will tell you he grew up watching Kerry Von Erich. He will tell you he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Hey, man, I'm actually with you, and I'm sorry, Will, I didn't mean to step on you there, but yeah, no, I'm with you on the science part of it. There's guys, listen, I could argue all day that, who brought me in. shoot me if you want to, but Ultimate Warrior, like, I mean, like the Ultimate Warrior was like a huge deal at the time. Like, I mean, and he didn't have a long run or anything, but I think I don't even think he gets considered. I'm just saying there's a discussion about like what his impact on the business was. I get these guys though. They're trying to go like long haul, like over the span of the sport, that sort of thing. So it's interesting. It's interesting to find out where everybody lands. Will, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
I'll just point out this amazing statistic that Brian Rosa shared, that Meltzer actually talks 2 times more than Gary, which I find unbelievable.
Impossible. Yeah.
But no, I was gonna agree, and Rob as an educator and a very academic guy, I think would still agree with me, and I think this is your point, that you can overanalyze something. You can make it more science and more math than it needs to be. And wrestling is an example. Movies are another example. Any form of art, you're not ever going to land on a foolproof, legitimate way to analyze it, because different things speak to different people. And so I'm with you. If Kerry Von Erich is not on that list, I have some trouble calling it completely credible, just because of the impact he's had, and they go out of their way. Gary, you mentioned this several times, but to talk about people that have had impact on the business, if Hall and Nash aren't in there, again, I don't think that's a factor, because if you ignore the impact that they had on the business in the 90s, then you were blind. But so there's just a lot of factors in there, and I don't know that there's ever going to be a definitive, these are the best wrestlers of all time. It's fun to talk about, but at the end of the day, everyone's going to have their own opinion. And, some people like abstract art, some people like lifelike landscape paintings, some people like horror movies, and some people like rom-coms. There's all different kinds of tastes out there. And so, the idea of having like a definitive, this is it, I don't think is ever going to exist in professional wrestling or anything that could be considered an art form. So, it's cool that they're doing that. I definitely would respect what they're doing better than, some other Hall of Fames that are probably just more political and just who's done the most for your promotion. But it's a fun conversation to have. But at the end of the day, I do agree with Rob. You can't. You're going to overthink it, and you're going to miss some people that should really be part of that.
Well, I think part of it too is like I'm sitting here thinking about like some of those names that it's talking about dropping off, and like obviously Kerry Von Erich. Kerry Von Erich was a big one for me, and I knew him first from WWE, probably. Like I probably got the Texas Tornado version, and it wasn't until later that I even came to appreciate like the impact that he had in Texas wrestling and in the NWA, and when people talk about like who got bigger crowd reactions than the frickin' Beatles, it's those Von Erich boys. It feels like almost every one of them just immediately should earn a spot. But another one I look at is like, I don't know about you guys, but this happens to me all the time. I swear, like with my in-laws or whoever I meet, especially like of older former fans of wrestling, when they hear that I do anything with wrestling or talk about wrestling, yada, yada, yada. One of the first names I swear to God that always comes up is Haystacks Calhoun. And like that name just keeps coming up. And I had never even heard of Haystacks Calhoun. Sometimes some random person brought him up, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And then I go back and I look at stuff of Haystacks Calhoun, and yeah, he wasn't like some fantastic wrestler or anything. He was just, in a sense, like an Andre the Giant for the time. And he just, but he's somebody that stood out to people, and maybe it was just spectacle, or maybe whatever it was. I think especially with the Andre the Giant point, but Andre the Giant is in the Observer Hall of Fame, by the way. I did look. It's just interesting to me, like, what are the factors here? Because if the whole world remembers Haystacks Calhoun all these years later,
he's an icon.
Yeah. It's like, doesn't that count for something?
Yeah. That's a
well. You're gonna have to
iconic status. Then you're in, dude. It's like, what are you talking about? Von Erich's not in. What do you mean Calhoun's not in? Of course they're in.
You're gonna have to prove to me that some of the names on that list that I, as a lifelong wrestling fan, have never heard of. And I'm not saying I know all of wrestling and I'm this big, but I've been a fan of wrestling my whole life. And there's names on this list that I haven't heard of. And you're gonna try to tell me that they're more important to the business than a Von Erich or a Hall and Nash. Like, get out of here with that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean that those are the stories that still maintain. Like, those are the stories that will maintain for years to come. Are stories like the Outsiders traveling over to the WCW, and like that's gonna be a legendary story that will live longer than us. It just will be part of the history of professional wrestling. I don't know. I'll call Dave and get him on the show. We'll talk about it.
Let's do that. That's probably the best way to do
it. Let's see here. What other wrestling news can we talk about? Here's a big one. I think possibly the biggest one is breaking a lot of hearts. WWE star and recent pal of The Fiend, for whatever reason, Alexa Bliss announced on Sunday that she is now engaged to boyfriend and singer Ryan Cabrera. 29. She shared a picture of the 38-year-old Cabrera proposing on Saturday night, 1 year after they first met in Los Angeles at a premiere, helped along by their joint friend, in my opinion, enemy, The Miz. Bliss was formerly engaged to fellow WWE wrestler Buddy Murphy before the two split in early 2018. This will be the first marriage for both of them. Alexa Bliss is off the market, ladies and gentlemen. And so is Ryan Cabrera. Yeah, ladies.
Yeah.
Or guys who are into Ryan Cabrera. I don't even know. I don't really know who Ryan Cabrera is.
Oh, come on, man. I love Ryan Cabrera. He was, yeah. I mean, not extremely talented, but had a couple of pop hits. If we're going to talk about people that made an impact on the business, Gary,
Ryan Cabrera just made the biggest impact on the business tonight.
He should be in the Hall of Fame.
Poor Woodland Goblin, Rob. I don't want to make you. Oh, I'm sorry, Will. Go ahead.
No, I was done.
Okay, Will, or Rob, I don't want to have to turn you into Wade Barrett, but do you have something for Woodland Goblin here? As long as Lindsay Snow stays single.
I was gonna say, man, when you're about to break the engagement, it's like, please don't tell me it was Lindsay Snow, man. Not that it affects me or anything. I'm just saying.
But he'd leave his wife. Sorry, I shouldn't. That wasn't even funny. Like, Rob wasn't even like, I can't even joke about that, dude.
Yeah, I would not. Hey, guys.
Man.
Hey, Brian Russ was talking about Miss Pro match announcements. We got a whole host of them for the upcoming December the 11th show. Run it back. And
I had them, bro. I was.
Oh, go ahead, then. Go ahead. Then.
Well, they're down my list here. Hold on. I was getting there, but
that was the main event.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I'm always doing that.
What? You stepping on me? No, it's okay. I don't think I sent them to you ahead of time, but yeah, you got Genocide is taking on Amber Rodriguez, making her debut in Mission Pro Wrestling. Genocide is who she's going up against, and I do not envy Amber. That is probably not going to be good for her.
Rest in peace, Amber.
Yep, and Maddie Renkowski is going to be taking on Jasmine Allure. Front row. This was what I was hoping Rob would point out. Lindsay Snow isn't single. Well, she's not married, but still.
Hey, man. Hey, when it comes to Robbie Roode, they're all single, baby.
No, you're the one who told me she dated like what's his face, Shane Helms.
Yeah,
not Shane Helms. The other three count that. That isn't Evan Courageous. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't remember. Shannon Moore. God, why? We love you, Lindsay. All right. So look at Ryan Romano coming through in the clutch. He's just like throwing them in the chat. So you got Thunder Rosa versus Baby D, and this is her retirement match. Baby D is exiting in-ring action after this, but before she goes, she wants to see if she can one-up Thunder Rosa. That's going to be interesting.
Baby D was doing ring announcing at Hell Hath No Fury.
Yep.
She's had an extensive career in Texas. I've not seen a lot of her stuff, but I've read up a lot on it. And Thunder Rosa is doing the honors there to send Baby D out on her retirement. This is not a retirement match like a loser leaves. Like Baby D's retiring, and she wants to go out going against the best wrestler in the world, and she's doing it with Thunder Rosa. So that's going to be pretty awesome.
That's true. That's one of the huge matches. Another one of the big matches of that night is going to be obviously La Rosa Negra is taking on Lacey Ryan to become the first ever Mission Pro Wrestling champion. That's going to be a huge one. I can't wait to see. Honest to God, I can't wait to see these two women just go head to head because they are going to kill it in that ring. You know they are. They are two of the top wrestlers in the business, much less women wrestlers in the business. These are two of the top, La Rosa Negra and Lacey Ryan. Let's go. Let's for fun. Just curious, Will, how you feeling about that match? Who's going to come out on top of that? Who's your first Mission Pro champ?
My gut says La Rosa Negra.
You'd be right.
But honestly, I'm not shocked either way. So we'll just have to see.
I'm feeling that too, man. I think, Rob, you were nodding along. I think we're all feeling La Rosa Negra. Like La Rosa Negra has to come out on top here. It's like she's just due. It's time. Like she's just ready to be a champion, and she's got the attitude. She's got the swag. Like she's just the swagger, I should say. Like she just looks like she's ready to be a champion. So
yeah, both women are deserving. But I'm gonna tell you right now, man, you got to see. You've seen La Rosa Negra on Title Match Network, right?
Yeah, Title Match Network.
You got to see her in person, man. You got to see her in person. She is the real deal. And I'm going to tell you, man, La Rosa Negra might mess around and give Thunder Rosa a run for her money.
Whoa, that could be good one day. That could be good. Brian Rosa, I got to ask you in the chat because one announcement I haven't seen yet is Holiday straight up called out genocide on commentary. If you didn't, Rob, I don't know if you caught that, but she stood up. She was like, "I want a piece of that." Like she was like, "I want genocide in the ring." Holiday did it, but genocide still not taking on Holiday, so that's interesting. So we'll see what happens. You got Kimberly versus Killer Kelly. Like we mentioned before, both of them are going to be appearing in the Impact Wrestling Tag Team Tournament. They're going to be taking on each other one-on-one at Mission Pro Wrestling's Run It Back on December the 11th. Elena Black is back. And she's, guess what? It's a rematch. She's taking on Rachel Rose, who she defeated at Hell Hath No Fury. This is going to be interesting. I'm excited to see what happens here. Does your queen, Rob, have what it takes to beat Elena Black?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. She's got, and like you said so brilliantly, I can't remember which show here in the last week or so, Elena Black's either going to bend the knee or Rachel Rose is going to break the knee. One of the two is going to happen. Rachel Rose is going to win this match. It's going to happen. The queen will emerge victorious, guaranteed.
Love it. Mm-hmm. We got Killa Kate versus Miranda Gordy, and we got, oh God, help us, Red Velvet's going to be in action. God bless her. She's lovely, and then our girl Maddie Rinkowski is going one-on-one with Jasmine Allure, who cost her shot in the Tournament Out of Hell. Maddie could be Maddie 2 belts. The crowd wanted it, but it didn't happen. Jasmine Allure just stepping in where she didn't belong. And ruined the chances for Maddie. Now she's going for that PPW championship that Maddie holds, the Pure Pinche Wrestling. What's going to happen? I don't know. Well, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Reality check, Jasmine.
Right.
You done stepped in the wrong ring. That's what happened. Anyway.
You're right. I mean, you're looking at when you're looking at Mission Pro showcasing all these women, you got 3 of the greatest emerging talents. And they're not even emerging. They're already established talents, but they're going to assert themselves on a grander and grander platform. But you're looking at Burt Dixon, you're looking at Rachel Rose, and you're looking at Maddie Rinkowski. They can't be stopped right now. Anytime you got one of those 3 in the match, unless Thunder Rosa or somebody like that's in there, my money's on one of those 3.
There you go. I'm excited. If you guys aren't already on board with Mission Pro Wrestling, I mean, I don't know how much more we could tell you that you need to be. You gotta watch Mission Pro. It is one of the hottest up and coming promotions in the business today. Mission Pro Wrestling. They are featured on the Title Match Network. You can watch that right on your interwebs. And the next show is on December the 11th. It's called Run It Back. If you missed Hell Hath No Fury or the Tournament Out of Hell, both of those events are available on the Title Match Network. You can check those out. It is going to be amazing. I assure you, they're going to crown their very first champion December the 11th. So if you want to be on board, you want to say you saw it when it happened, you got to tune in on December the 11th. It's going to be awesome. Anything else you wanted to add, fellas, about Mission Pro right this second?
It's the best thing going, man. I mean, for all our criticism about this and that, man, you got no criticisms about Mission Pro. They are doing everything right. Everything right. Agreed.
Speaking of women's wrestling, by the way, during an intermission on Sunday morning at the Sendai Cinderella show, Stardom announced that they're coming back with a 10th anniversary show. You know, they were just bought up by New Japan, but I thought it's worth mentioning if you guys are into that. On March 3rd at Budokan Hall, they'll be having a 10th anniversary show, so it's nice to see they're going to be coming back. So that'll be interesting. Throw it back to the old Observer. I did have some news items from Dave Meltzer here that he threw up in the Observer. You saw me scrolling through it with the Hall of Fame there, but he does say here there's talent in WWE that have been told in recent contract negotiations that the old way of touring is not coming back, even if and when the country bounces back from COVID. One more step in the company pretty much admitting that it is the mindset, that this is the mindset, came this past week with about a dozen employees who work live events, the most well-known name being ring announcer Tony Schimmel, were released. The reality is the company is setting record profits without doing house shows, and the house show division has started over the past year plus to often be a money loser. He says, Meltzer goes on to say the economics of the business are completely different than they ever have been. If anything, the key value of house shows now isn't in money making, but in giving wrestlers more experience. It was also thought to be good for making a stronger base of fans and selling merchandise. What they found out is that with no house shows, all of a sudden WWE shop merch numbers skyrocketed, and the total merch sales ended up being almost identical to when there were house shows, which shocked everyone. In theory, lack of house shows will slow the progress of the younger talent, particularly the athlete types WWE has signed who don't have years learning in the ring or on independent shows, but that's more of an NXT issue. They need to get the newer talent more ring time before fans. At the WWE level, with very few exceptions, mostly some of the women, all of the wrestlers are good workers and are doing just fine in the ring, wrestling fewer matches. The pandemic has turned into a learning experience because of less travel, less matches, less exhaustion, wear and tear. It's led to fewer injuries and will likely lengthen careers at the top level. So they released, like you said, Schimmel. They also, big surprise release, Derek Castleman, who had headed the arena merchandise division So it's basically all of that to say it sounds like they are moving away from house shows no matter what happens after the pandemic. Any thoughts on that, Will?
Yeah, I mean, I'm torn about it because, I mean, obviously from a business side, I mean, they learned a lot, and I can't fault them for that. But, to me, house shows and things like that are part of the business. I mean, putting on live shows for fans. And I see the point that, for these guys at that level, it can be a little grueling. So I think that, it may be better for performers even to not have to do nightly house shows and to travel that much. But, it's like I said, I'm torn. I mean, house shows, that was my first experience with wrestling as a kid. And I'd love to be able to take my kids to stuff like that. But, we'll see.
Rob, just to throw it in there, James Lawrence mentioned a great point in the chat that if anything, the WWE announcement on house shows will help out the indies. How do you feel about that? What are you thinking?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. It's like, live wrestling isn't going away. Even WWE live wrestling isn't going away. We're talking about house shows that don't, for a company like WWE, house shows very rarely have a narrative implication. The storylines are going to be pushed along by your Smackdowns and your Raws and your pay-per-views, and I'm really expecting. Yeah, it's like when the pandemic happened, a lot of things changed. The whole world changed. I mean, the nature of like education changed. The way that I do my job changed, and it's not necessarily for the worse. You're forced to be more industrious, more frugal, more cognizant of resources and all that. It doesn't mean that like Will's talking about his first experience. It doesn't mean that I'm never going to be able to take my kids to shows anymore. They're indie shows. Indie shows are still going to always be there. If I want to go see a big show like Mission Pro, yeah, I'm going to have to fly out to Butte, Texas, and that's fine. I'm cool with doing that. Not everybody can, but it's worth it if you can do it. But it's not a thing that really it's a matter of having an opinion on it. These are market forces that dictate this. Obviously, businesses are in the business to further the business. They're in the business to make money and and you make money by providing a good product. And if providing a good product means that you're going to streamline things and trim the fat here and there, then it is what it is. But I think that to James Lawrence's point, I think there is an opportunity here for the indies. There's an opportunity here for for local promotions to really capitalize. And it's not like local promotions they're not backyard wrestling. I mean, I'm going to a show next Saturday up in Grimsley, Tennessee, which is incidentally where we'll be going on December 10th. But who's going to be at the show on this Saturday in Grimsley, Tennessee? Not only my man Alex Taylor, one of the best wrestlers in Tennessee, but also Crimson and Tom Latimer. They're going to be there. It's an independent show, and they're still going to be running that circuit as long as they're not WWE signed talent. So this doesn't spell the death for wrestling. It means that WWE is trying to refine its business model a little bit more, and this provides more opportunity for the indies. So just like James Lawrence said, so everything will be okay. The world will continue.
Yeah, I never doubted the world would continue, but it is interesting. James Lawrence opened my eyes there with that comment because I guess I never thought of it. We're obviously interested in independent shows anyway, but yeah, this could be like a huge boom for like independent shows. Like that, there are places that WWE and even AEW just won't hit. They're not going to go to. And that's just the facts. And so you've got an excellent opportunity to build like a local level infrastructure of professional wrestling, like a nice, just firm scene there. And that'll be cool. And it'll be up to the bigger promotions to provide enough value for you to make the trip to go see them in whatever major city that they're going to decide to show up in.
And it's like there's an opportunity here for the reassertion of territories. You know what I mean? If WWE is withdrawing from that scene, then why wouldn't the indies move back into that and reassert territory? So not that, everybody else besides WWE does that anyway, but now you have a chance to do it on a larger scale because you're not having to compete with houses that WWE is putting on. Because WWE, I mean, I've been to WWE house shows before that haven't sold out, that have been, half empty arenas. They never show. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but they can afford to book an arena and not sell it out. Whereas, that right there would drive the indies out of competition altogether. And, you're forced to setting up a little warehouse and doing your weekly show there. But now the indies can book, these smaller arenas and tour again too. So I think it doesn't necessarily send a foreboding message. It might portend to bright things ahead for wrestling as a whole.
Yeah, I think, I mean, for us, just even the word of mouth, like shows like ours talking about things like Mission Pro Wrestling and those things that we think people should travel to. Front Row in there talking about Queens of Combat and PWX up in Charlotte. Like, I mean, he talks about those regularly. Word of mouth is going to matter a lot for those people. And I think that's cool. I think it's a brave new world we're entering. That's a reference to a book by Huxley.
Oh, I don't read books.
Yeah. All right.
Was it a movie?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't have any idea if it was a movie. Rosville says local pro promotion is Defy. They do great with their production. Robert Stinson. Robert Stinson had to jump in there. Oh, we're both doing it.
We're both trying to do it.
No, what's fun? What's especially funny, Will, is
Robert.
Rob stopped everything in that Todd Kinley interview and said, "I saw you did stuff with Defy or something like that." He was like, "Is it an acronym?" And Kinley's like, "I don't know."
It's like, I was reading somewhere that it was an acronym, and I've been searching for like, what does it mean? I mean, what is that? I'm like, so I just got to know. If it's not, it's cool,
That's funny. Rosville just says the Defiance. That's what it is.
So it's an abbreviation, then, not an acronym.
Hey, let's hear this. What do you guys think about? Do you believe this? The Survivor Series on November 22nd is being pushed as the farewell appearance of The Undertaker. Undertaker's not going to wrestle. So if this is from Meltzer, he says, so I guess we've all agreed at this point that AJ Styles, that match will be his final farewell for real, since historically he said he's done many times, and then Vince McMahon calls him prior to WrestleMania. He said he had badly wanted a great match to leave on. It would be virtually impossible for him to top the Styles match presentation, both because of the production involved, the talent of Styles, and the graveyard setting. He did get to go out in the most talked about and popular match on the most unique WrestleMania show. But the way WWE is promoting this appearance, it seems everyone is on the same page that he's done and won't play the character again after the show. IWA in Puerto Rico announced Zelena Vega is coming to the show, so it appears WWE is bringing in many of Undertaker's personal best friends. Many of Undertaker's other good friends will also be invited and confirmed. Names include Mayor Glenn Kane Jacobs and Charles Godfather Wright. So is this it for The Undertaker? Will this be the last time we see The Undertaker as a character on Sunday? Next Sunday?
No, it won't be. I mean, it may be for a while, but you got to think 15 years down the road, they're going to want to do something and bring back The Undertaker. The Undertaker is, as long as The Undertaker, it's like Ric Flair said, leading up to the Shawn Michaels match, I will never retire, and he will never retire. The Undertaker, until he dies, The Undertaker belongs to the world, and he'll always be there. Not always in every capacity, and but he will always come back. And until he belongs to the ages, he'll belong to us. So, yeah,
I just feel like, Will, that for The Undertaker to go out, like, I don't know. I thought this way with Jazz. Like, I felt bad for Jazz that like she announced her retirement this year, given the circumstances with COVID. She wanted to have kind of like, it seemed seemed as though she wanted to do like a tour, like a last year of wrestling as a go away tour. But I mean, the Undertaker, no slight on Jazz. This is like even on a much, much grander scale. This is the Undertaker we're talking about. Does he go out like this is it in the year where there's no fans, no crowd, no people to witness it? Like, I feel like he's gonna not completely disappear until he's in front of the live audience one more time.
Yeah, I think this is more of a kind of appeasing thing so that they can theoretically have him retire. I mean, I think everybody has to make that decision at some point, but just that Ric Flair example is a perfect example. I mean, Ric Flair still appears on WWE television. He's still under contract with WWE. So somebody that reaches that kind of status, I just don't see the possibility of that character. Now, he may never wrestle another match. And so if you want to consider retirement, you'll never see Undertaker in the ring again going one-on-one with somebody in a match. I'll give you that, but I don't think that we've seen the last of the character of the Undertaker. And I think, Rob hit the nail on the head. I mean, there's going to come a time, and it may be 5 years down the road. It may not be soon, but they're going to want to put him back on TV and have him, kind of bring some renewed interest to something. And he should be able to do that. I just don't see him riding off into the sunset for good. But I mean, that Boneyard match is a great last match. If that is his last match, I thought it was the best of this era in terms of cinematic matches for sure. I thought it painted him in a good light, and AJ Styles is a great opponent to have as your last opponent. And I thought it was a cool match. And so, we'll see, but I tend to lean towards what Rob was saying.
Right. He's iconic. I mean, he doesn't – when you become that – and he didn't ask for that, but when you become that, you don't have the option to disappear from public view. It's like retired presidents. And, I live in Georgia. Jimmy Carter is our president, and he's not been in public policy. And say what you want about the man as a president while in office, but the guy has never left the public scene. He can't. He doesn't have that option. The Undertaker doesn't have the option to disappear. Now, if we mean like regular active appearance in week to week activity in the ring, sure. And lots of people do that. But the Undertaker's always going to be relevant. He'll always return. He has to. I mean, he doesn't have the option not to.
All right. The next part that I want to get to, I mean, this will be quick. I know that we usually focus on the USA stuff, but if we're going to be a broad spanning pro wrestling podcast here, just as an FYI, Mexico's having a fit with COVID issues right now. CMLL is doing closed door matches in Arena Mexico to fill their TV commitments. But their usual huge Friday shows are off. Bandito is still dealing with a bad bout of COVID, and he was I don't know. He was a big part of what CMLL was doing, as well as ROH. And Triple A is also facing the exact same thing. They were avoiding their Triple Mania show, which is usually a huge show in Mexico. They wanted live fans, but since that's looking like it's not happening, they're reportedly wanting to figure something out for Triple Mania 2020. They don't want to miss a year of it. So they're more open to the idea of an empty arena show. Meltzer had mentioned something about he doesn't know why they don't do the drive-in shows, because that's something they've been doing a lot here lately, where people just drive up in their cars, that sort of thing. I had some for Dark Side of the Ring. We'll get to that in a minute. I'll throw this in there just so we can do it. We can dwell on this, and I'll give you each a go if you want to say anything. But supposedly in NWA-related news, we don't have any details, so we can't tell you. But NWA former Vice President David Lagarde has sent legal letters to two reporters reporting on the issues of the the reasons he stepped down, essentially, just basically claiming defamation. Liz Savage, who was the woman who claimed that initially, has even stated her tweet literally says, I want to let you guys know Dave Lagana has sent at least 2 journalists demand letters, which are trying to extort a settlement from these guys or be sued. Info is I'm able to release it. But yeah, apparently he is sending something out claiming defamation unless they recant the stories or there's going to be a lawsuit involved. So that is a thing that's happening. I don't know if you guys have anything you want to add to that, but I just figure we're obligated to mention it at least.
I mean, same thing we've said from the beginning. I mean, not that any of us can really know the truth, but if he's got a leg to stand on, I hope he gets some of that reputation back, but we'll see.
Yep. Rob, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Same thing. I mean, Lagana was a valuable part of the NWA. His creative direction can't be questioned, and everybody deserves to be heard. I mean, you don't just, the accuser, the accused especially have a deserve to be heard, and so I hope that he can be heard. And if he's to be vindicated, then I hope it happens. And it'd be great to have him back a part of the team. If that bears out. So.
All right. Well, here's what I'm going to do since we all got a little bit of time left. I'm going to run through and I won't yell as much as I am now. I'm going to just briefly tell you every headline that I had left on this list of things. You guys know I had a shit ton of stuff for this week. But I'm going to say it all, and then we can discuss whatever Will and Rob want to talk about or the chat wants to talk about. Does that seem fair as we go into the last little bit of our show? Elena Black she had a tryout this week with AEW. So, there's that. John Cena is currently quarantining in Canada because he's getting ready to start on HBO Max TV series directed by Suicide Squad, based on the Suicide Squad. It's a spinoff. James Gunn directing it. He's played a character called Peacemaker in the new movie. So John Cena further and further away from wrestling. In an interview with Access Hollywood, the Bella Twins teased to return to the ring to go after the tag team titles. This is what, this was Bree said, this is what's hard for Nikki and I. When we left, all of a sudden, the women's tag titles came, and we're like, wait a second, that's for the Bella Twins. We've been dying to have tag titles. And so we feel like we have one more run in us, and we really want to go for those. So the Bella Twins thinking about coming back. WWE announced the tribute for the troops, which will air on Fox on December the 6th in conjunction with NFL broadcast. It will air directly after the NFL game in markets with a 1 p.m. game. And given the ratings of Sunday NFL just from that, this is according to Meltzer, just from being in that time slot, they'll probably get the biggest numbers for any wrestling show in a long time. This past Sunday, the NFL games on Fox averaged 15,736,000 viewers. And for a 1-hour show that follows a number like that, it could be the most viewers WWE will see perhaps ever again. So just an interesting point from Meltzer there. Cody Rhodes said he's looking at wrestling 5 more years until the age of 40 and then run for Senate in the state of Georgia. Rob, Senator, Mr. Senator American Nightmare, coming to your locale. It will, let's see here. His exact quote is, for the next 5 years, I want to wrestle at the absolute highest level I can wrestle. Be part of the building of new stars, but I'm not going to apologize if my run continues at its rate. I'm going to ride the lightning bolt until I can't anymore. But he has political aspirations, apparently. Rob, I know you got something to say about that.
I hope he's a Republican, man. Well, let me say, I hope he's a fiscal conservative. Let me say that.
There you go. And then let's see here. Tony Khan talked to TSN about a number of things, but the big one here was he did capitalize more on the New Japan talk. He said, quote, I'd like to see more of a two-sided relationship there because I'm honestly one of the easiest people to work with in wrestling. We've worked with NWA. We've worked with AAA. We've sent people to New Japan. I think with Harold being gone, I don't know if it's going to be easier, but I have a feeling it might be. It's funny because the people at New Japan who are wrestling people want the relationship as well. But in Japan, it's been hard for some to get through the bad feelings of working with someone who took so much talent. But at the same time, they can have access to that talent for their big events once the pandemic is over if they make a deal. And most of those guys weren't even working full tours anyway. So like Tony Khan is saying, like, we've sent people there. We've made deals with other companies. We could make a deal with New Japan. I'd love to see them try to offer something for that sort of arrangement. So that seems to be where Tony Khan's at on the discussion for New Japan. Also, AEW announced its AEW Games division on their YouTube event on November 10th. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it featured Kenny Omega and literally like everybody else in the Elite dressed as Steve Jobs. It had just kind of interesting, but they're making a game. It's going to be interesting, this one, just because we've seen how popular AEW seems to be with the younger crowd. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that pays off in the video game world. So we'll see. Just an idea there. And ROH, they're still out there, folks. They're saying something on November 16th. So that's tomorrow. They're going to be announcing the date for Final Battle. That's going to be their next thing, and all TV that they're starting to produce is going to be put out and building towards that. And that's going to be live. They're planning for Final Battle to be a live event. It'll be the first live broadcast they've had since the pandemic hit. And it'll be available on pay-per-view and Honor Club. And they re-signed Rush, I think, is the latest stuff they did. It looked like WWE offered him some stuff. MLW offered him some stuff, but ROH sealed him down. So that's add him on the list of people ROH is forking over money for finally. I said Rush. It's Roosh. Roosh. Yes. Tom Lawler recently tested positive for COVID. He was asymptomatic, and but that's MLW news. TJP showed up at the last tapings for MLW, and one of the matches that are getting taped now is the big lead up to Jacob Fatu versus Davey Boy Smith Jr. for the MLW title. That was going to headline a pay-per-view before all of this crap happened. The expectation there is that Jacob Fatu's going to get the win here because Davey Boy Smith Jr. still is not re-signed with MLW, supposedly. So who knows? He's popping up on UWN, said he's interested in that title. And, you know, what's Davey Boy Smith Jr. going to do? We don't know. Kevin Von Erich's over there, though, taping stuff. So that's interesting. I mentioned earlier that we had some Europe stuff, and it was basically just to say, you know, somebody mentioned NXT UK. European wrestling is apparently suffering right now. They're having a hard time. They can't draw any significant number of fans. The WWE is like bought up most of the talent over there, you know, not to sit over here and continuously pile on WWE, but they just don't have the same amount of talent they usually have. And so they're just, I don't know. It's just difficult to book shows over there, apparently. Melissa Coates, 49, the former bodybuilding star, went into wrestling and is best known as the Genie in Sabu's Act, had her left leg amputated from the knee down. She was experiencing excruciating pain and rushed to University Medical Center in Las Vegas, had several arterial blockages in the leg. After several surgeries, the blockages instead spread and became life-threatening, and they had to amputate the leg to save her life. That is that's no good for anybody. That's a terrible situation. So she does, if you look it up, she has a GoFundMe account right now you can contribute to if you choose to. And Lionel Green, better known as Leo Rush, will be a part of MTV's show The Challenge in season 36. It'll be on Wednesday nights, head-to-head with NXT and AEW. Currently, that show draws bigger numbers than any wrestling show does. So Leo Rush will be putting himself out there.
Wasn't Roman Reigns on the MTV EMA Awards or something here recently? Or maybe it's coming up.
It's possible. I don't know.
Yeah, somebody comment if that's the case. I thought I saw, or Tanya might have told me that he was doing something with MTV. So,
well, I can't think of a better way to get to this than now. Thunder Rosa was on Busted Open Radio, and we're fans of Thunder Rosa somewhat, in that we talk about her consistently. She said, quote, if anybody's been wondering about her future, she said, because of all the projects I have on the side, it has to be a place where I'm able to continue to work with what I am working on. As you guys know, I run and I'm part owner of Mission Pro Wrestling. It's an all-women's show, and I'm not talking about the in-ring. Everybody that runs stuff is women. And there's so much stuff that I'm working on with other projects that I have with this to make it bigger. So if I'm able to do it do it in NWA, then NWA. If I'm able to do it in AEW, probably. But now knowing what WWE is doing and things that we have on the side, it's going to be very difficult for me on my personal projects. And sometimes those personal projects are the things that bring you the most joy in life. And I don't want that joy to be taken away from me for money. If that's what I have to sacrifice sometimes, then I'd rather be happy than be enslaved somewhere where I'm going to be there for I don't know how long. Those in AEW have noted they'd like to use her more and said, this is from Meltzer, sorry. Those in AEW have noted that they'd like to use her more, and they said they didn't think she had interest in WWE right now. Regarding after her deal is up, she said, I have another year with NWA, and when it's my time, it's going to be my time. And when my time comes, man, I'm not going to come as just another person on the roster. Mark my words. I'm coming for everything. I'm coming to be on top, just like I did this first time. My value is going to be bigger because I'm going to be a better wrestler. I'm going to cut better promos. My body's going to look chiseled. I'm going to have a better record as a fighter. I'm going to be like, this is what I offer. What do you have to offer me? And so, I mean, what more could you ask? Right?
Yep.
That's a girl. That's Thunder Rosa. I mean, that's what you got to do. And hope we're going to obviously hope that the right people are offering the right amount of money. But she's earned it.
She's a prize fighter, man. She's a prize fighter. And that's how prize fighters talk. And, when you were mentioning all her side projects, what I heard when she said that, my translation was, I have to be able to appear on This Is the NWA podcast with Gary Horn Robinson and Will Martin. So I can't go somewhere that's going to restrict my third party appearances.
Right.
But that's just how I heard it. But no, I mean, she's a prize fighter, spoken like a true champion. And she's exactly right. I don't think anybody's doubting what she said. She's gonna go where she can reach her full potential, and we're gonna have a front row shout out. We're gonna have a front row seat for that. So I'm excited about it. I think she carries herself like a champion, and this is just another example of her going out there and keep continuing to put herself over.
Yeah, I love that family. I love Thunder Rosa and Brian Rosa. I mean, I feel like Brian Rosa is a good friend of my brother, and Thunder Rosa is just a comrade, and I respect her like crazy because it's not all about money for her. Like she says, she Mission Pro is her mission. She's also involved in the community. She is a true fighter, statesman, champion in every aspect. I mean, this is a legit. She is real. She is. If there's anybody out there that's real, it's her. And so nothing but respect for them. And yeah, I mean, she's not going to be Thunder Rosa. I mean, and I had a chance to have this conversation with her, and I know Ryan Romano was there too at Tournament Out of Hell. Just a few minutes because she's so busy, and she's an active manager and worker, and she's just come all the time hustling. But I had a chance to talk to her and Brian at the very end as we were leaving. I was like, I just want you to know, Thunder Rosa, no matter what happens in the future, you are you're the biggest name in the world. There are a lot of big names out there. John Moxley's pretty big. You've got Roman Reigns and stuff. They're all big, but Thunder Rosa, you are the biggest in the world, and you dictate your own terms. Don't ever let somebody sell you short of anything. And she didn't have to listen to me, and but what I'm saying is true. I mean, she really is, and I think what she's saying is spot on. That when her time comes, I hope it's to stay with the NWA, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I'm going to be a Thunder Rosa fan forever. I'm going to support Mission Pro forever because I believe in her. I believe in a mission there that they're doing, and I believe that she's good. She's got a good heart. It's I don't care if she turns into the worst heel ever. This woman loves. She loves this country. She loves this business. She loves her community. She's a servant leader, and as an educator and as a father, those are all the characteristics that appeal to me as a person. And so, I walked up there. One of the benefits of being a VIP is you get to walk in there and get your picture made with all the girls in the ring. And as I walked out, I was like, "Hey, Thunder," and then she just leaned over, said in her ear, I said, "La Mera till I die." And she's like, "That's what's up," and I believe that. These are fine people. I'm not just saying it because Brian Rose is in the chat. I don't have to, but I will say it. He's a great guy. I love him, and I love her, and they are one of the true bright spots in pro wrestling during this very, very dark time that 2020 has been. Maybe the brightest spot.
Yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn. So hopefully she wouldn't even mind me saying this, but like I literally this week had a conversation with a girl I just happen to know who's a part of like the TEDx type stuff, and in like a regional thing for TEDx, they're doing a women's empowerment seminar, and one of the theme of it is like WWE or something. They're doing like wine, women empowerment or something along those lines, but they're having like a wrestling type theme. And the girl hit me up. She was like, "I know that you do wrestling stuff. Like, do you happen to know, like, we're trying to do like women empowerment, like special women and like women that influence and inspire and that sort of thing." She was like, "So anyway, blah, blah, blah." She's like, "I was just curious, like, since you do the wrestling thing," I was like, "Hold on. Are you going to ask me if I know a woman?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "I 100% do already. I know exactly who that woman is. And it's Thunder Rosa. Like, you've got to get, like, you owe it to yourselves to get her on there. Every bit of her story deserves to be told on as many platforms to as many different audiences as you can. She is the real deal, and she proves, I mean, even in wrestling or in everywhere else, that you don't need the big machine behind you or any of that you can make stuff happen. And her determination, it reaches beyond any sort of borders, male and female, nationality, or anywhere else. Like, it's this, I mean, she inspires me. That's what I told the girl. I was like, this lady inspires me. I was like, you need her. If you want an empowered, inspiring woman, I know exactly who it is. So I got her in touch with Thunder Rosa, and that's and hopefully that works out, and you'll get to see Thunder Rosa speak for TEDx. But anyway, just that's the kind of stuff we're talking about.
Gary, can I say one more thing real quick about Thunder Rosa? And we know that famous article in PWI that came out a few months ago, page 60 of that issue. It said "obsessed with greatness" or "obsessed with excellence." I can't remember, but it's got her holding the Burke. Fantastic, iconic. I love it. I got a couple of them where I think we all have copies of them. I'm going to get mine framed and matted and all this, but I want to draw your attention to this issue that I threw up earlier, the current issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated. It just came out on newsstands, but this is an important issue because not only because it's got the women's top 100, but this is the issue where we vote for the year superlatives. And if you go to page 64 of this, there is a category called Inspirational Wrestler of the Year. And if you notice, it lists the top candidates, and Thunder Rosa is mentioned. And I would love if the hashtag NWA fam could rally together and get this award for Thunder Rosa, because she is the most inspirational wrestler of the year. I mean, we have to make this a movement, man. If we can cut this up, Gary, into micro content and push this out, hashtag Thunder Rosa, Inspirational Wrestler of the Year. We got to make this happen, guys. She needs this award. She deserves this award. If we can rally any kind of support or public opinion, this is the time. This is the rallying cry. This is the battle call. Let's get this award for Thunder Rosa because she deserves it. Inspirational Wrestler of the Year.
That's up for like grabs right now.
It is. If you and there's a ballot in this issue. I don't know that you have to buy this or send this in. I think you can mail it in too. You can vote it in, but there's a ballot on page. It's like on page. Let's see. It's on page 66 for you to vote all the categories. And she is one of the. Her name is listed as one of the finalists for this particular distinction. Inspirational of the Year. Shad Gaspar, Jey Uso, Mustafa Ali, the Speaking Out Movement, Nyla Rose, Thunder Rosa, Willie Mack, Warhorse, Tessa Blanchard, and Drake Maverick. And there's some very deserving names there, but none more deserving than Thunder Rosa. You gonna make me go up an octave on this. All right. She deserves the award.
Did it.
So let's get this for her, guys. Rally it, cut this up, rip this video, post it. Let's get this award for Thunder Rosa. I'm challenging all of us. Mobilize the base. Let's get this award for her. She deserves it.
Hell yeah. Thunder Rosa is the most inspiring wrestler in the business. We know that for a fact. Everything about her is just makes you want to be a better person. God bless you, Thunder Rosa.
There it is.
There it is. All right, guys, we're getting ready to wrap this thing up. If there's something else you want to talk about, now's the time to bring it up. Rob, Will, do you have any other stuff you want to talk about before we kill this thing? Or chat room, now's the time to throw it in there.
I don't think so.
It's a good talk, man. I enjoyed tonight, man. This is a lot of fun.
Tried to have enough news to keep 3 hours worth of show going. I mean, to be fair, it's almost 11, but we still have like 10 minutes for it to be 3 hours total. Will's like, just let me go to bed. Oh, man. All right. Well, I guess on that note, we'll go ahead and wrap this thing up and close her out. Rob, well, no, Rob, you have to think about these things. Will, where can people find you if they need to?
Oh man, I wasn't prepared for this. At Hey It's Will on all the socials except for TikTok, where I'm at heyitswill.com. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier, check out heyitswill.com if you want to see what I'm up to these days. But yeah, over to you, Rob.
You can find me on all social media platforms at This Is Dr. Spencer.
Nope.
Bullshit. that's never it. That's never it.
Well, I'll also tell you that where you can't find me at is on the Manscaped website. Although I do own a Manscaped and use one.
Well, not everybody wants to be like Dr. Rob. You can go to manscaped.com and use the promo code NWAPOD and get 20% off and free shipping. We're so casual about this now, but it's just
You can shave your nuts with it.
and that
Casual.
is the ultimate commercial for it. Did you just pull out Doritos out of nowhere? Like, what have you got?
You got a fun-sized Doritos?
How do you say it's so skinny? And like you have been steady eating. Like you just always have.
I'm making them gains. I run every day, run every morning, 6 miles at least every morning. I'm active. So.
You can be ball-tastic in no time. That's not related to your Doritos. Ryan, you didn't get crazy, buddy. You helped us out. You helped guide the show along and just went ahead and threw it up so I didn't have to search my notes for the Mission Pro matches. Let's get there. Brian wanted them then, so we delivered. Anyway, I bet this is Gary Horn on all the things. The show is at the NWA Pod. See? There it is. Don't forget the online store at nwafam.com where you can get cool hoodies and masks and all kinds of stuff that Will designed, and they're beautiful. beautiful. And I guess that's it. We will be here Tuesday night, right after UWN Primetime Live, and I can guarantee you we're going to be talking about that. I imagine, I don't want to speak out of turn, but I imagine that we'll also be referencing the AEW dark match between Lindsay Snow and Thunder Rosa, since that seems valid for what our show does. And so make sure you tune in. If you're not already following UWN Primetime Live, you can jump right on that with Fight TV. You can buy the package deal, or you can just buy like individual shows. It's a really good price. It's a very good deal. And we'll work our ass off. I'll try to make sure all day tomorrow I make sure that Todd Kennelly interview goes live at 6:05 tomorrow. And so you guys can check that out. I promise you it's going to be worth your time. So maybe we'll set it as a premiere so you can be a part of it. We'll all chat during it. And I guess that's it. So until next week, enjoy your gravy cake.